Good evening, all. We are back from closed session. We are up to item number 6, which is our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. It's a brief report this evening. For the Board of Ed, we just discussed in closed session memorandum of agreements for both our supervisory group and the principals group. And we add that to the approval of the memorandum of agreement for the teachers at the last meeting. So I really think that's great work by the committee, by the Board of Ed as a whole, and from the Supervisors Association, the Principals Association, and the Teachers Association to make sure that here it is before October 1st and we're ready to approve contracts for all of our bargaining units. It's quite an accomplishment. I want to thank everyone involved with it. I know it doesn't always happen this way, but I do believe it takes flexibility on both sides to make sure that it comes together in a timely fashion. And I'm really appreciative of everyone who was involved in the process, from the Board of Education, the teachers, the supervisors, bus drivers, instructional aides, all of them. So again, from a superintendent standpoint, I know a Board of Education standpoint, these are some of the major accomplishments, and it's a major thing to get done by October 1st of the school year. And we should know that the teachers, bus drivers, and instructional aides and admin assistants, they signed a 5-year contract, and principals, supervisors are on a 3-year deal. So once more, at least people have some ability to know what their paychecks are, and there's some stability in our hiring, and it certainly helps us down the road as we look to recruit people and retain people within our organization. So again, thank you to everyone involved. It's hard to believe, but we're already 4 weeks into the new school year. Anyone who's been going around the district, we would know that a lot of the construction projects that were really in full force over the summer are finishing up. Those were the HVAC projects on several elementary schools. The auditorium project is nearing completion. And the Basilone complex is nearly complete. There's some work to be done on the baseball netting, but if you go by, there are baseball stands and the like for us to really button this project up. So take a stroll around. It really is an awesome sight to see. And hopefully, again, knock on wood, our performing arts students will be able to use the auditorium. We're hoping next week, at the latest, a week after. Again, they were doing some finishing touches as far as carpet. This week they were reinstalling the sound and lighting system, the controllers in the back. And then really once that's buttoned up and complete, then kids can have full access to it. So I really think that auditorium project is going to be a showpiece for the district. And again, it's nice to have the facility that really matches the talents of our students and can be a +1, for the program versus maybe a -1 that it was in the past. So anyhow, that's one. And just as far as what's going on behind the scenes and what's going on in with our administrators and with our building and district leadership, we're working diligently on preparation already for the 26-27 school year. As we know, in 1 year, we're going to be shifting grades. And the reason why we're shifting grades is for the addition of full-day kindergarten, which will come to every primary school throughout the district. And as we know with that shift, the 4th grade is moving out of the primary schools into the intermediate schools, and the 6th grade is shifting from the intermediate level to the middle school, where we are building a new wing to accommodate those students. So there's quite a bit happening. There are a lot of moving pieces, and we're talking about personnel, transportation, all of these things, curriculum, et cetera, and we're trying to go through and get all those things buttoned up at least by February, so then we can really go ahead and plan for the next school year. So again, a brief report on my end. I'll hand it over to Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Beers. I do not have a report today, so I'll be even briefer than Mr. Beers. We are up to our committee reports. Up first is the Academic Committee with Mr. Joshi.
Our next meeting is on Monday, October 6th at 5 o'clock virtually.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi. Next is Finance, Facilities, and Transportation with Mr. Walker.
Yes, we met on September 16th at 5:30 at the Wade Building. In attendance was Mr. Lee, Ms. Lawford, Mr. Singer, myself, Mr. Lomsky, Mr. Beers, and Mr. Letzo, the referendum project manager. The first item on the agenda was the referendum budget update. The referendum project manager, Robert Letzo, reviewed the current status of the awarded referendum projects compared to the budgeted amounts versus the actual overall. Overall, the district is under budget. However, it was noted that there are several HVAC upgrade projects still to be awarded, which are expected to be over budget due to the economic environment and the rising cost of the HVAC-related projects. There is no recommendation at this time. Are there any questions? Item 2 on the agenda was the business agenda review. Discussion. The business administrator reviewed the draft business action items for September 30th meeting this evening. Recommendations consensus to approve the action items. Any questions? The third item was the policy updates. Discussion. The board administrator shared additional language proposed by Mr. Lee to be added to policy 0174 for second reading. The recommendation, the committee took a vote and to add the language to, and the results were 1 yes and 3 no's. The policy will be on the September 30th board meeting agenda with no changes for second reading. Are there any questions? See none. Other matters. The business administrator shared the transportation cost information related to the transportation analysis. On average, a district driver costs approximately $100,000 versus a contracted 3-tier route costing approximately $130,000. Also, we discussed the work order process and how playground maintenance issues can be addressed. And there was no recommendation this time. Any questions? Seeing none. Our next meeting is October 7th at 5:30 at the Wade Building, and we adjourned at 6:30.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. We're up to Personnel Committee with Ms. Calistri.
Our next meeting is October 28th.
And are there any liaison or delegate reports? Ms. Loughlin.
Thank you. I don't have the date in front of me. I apologize, but I attended the last town council meeting. And the only thing that I wanted to note was that the Friends of Bridgewater was really excited to just announce a lot of the events that they're having surrounding the history of Bridgewater. I know this has come up at the board level. And they are hosting an event called The History of Sunset Lake, which is actually a very, very interesting historical area in our town. And they are also looking for new members if anybody is interested in participating with an organization that is truly committed to the history of our town. The second thing I wanted to mention was I attended the September 11th memorial, and it was to honor the 9 lives that were lost from Bridgewater. And I'm going to briefly and quickly mention their names. It was Evan Barron, Noel Foster, Thomas Polhemus, Ronald Toro, Lance Tumultry, and Allison Wildman. And that is all I have to report.
Thank you, Ms. Loughlin. Any other liaison or delegate reports? Ms. Pepe.
Yes, thank you. 2 things from the Borough of Raritan. Our liaison, Councilman Umesh Agarwal, asked me to pass along thanks to Mr. Singer and the entire board for endorsing and supporting the grant that we discussed at the last meeting to try to create a history trail throughout Raritan to highlight some of the many of the historic sites in that community. And they'll report along as that comes through, and hopefully they are able to get what they're looking for and make that happen. Also, on about a week ago, on Sunday, September 21st, was the Basilone Parade. Our district was well represented. The Bridgewater Raritan Marching Band was there, and they did a great job, along with bands from other schools, as well as some youngsters from the BR football and cheerleading program. There was a big contingent of them. They kind of brought up the rear of the parade and added some much-needed energy there at the end. So great job by all of them. And for the first time, I believe, BRTV broadcast the entire event. So the stream is up on YouTube if anyone wants to go and see it. And they did a great job. I know we had Mr. Ruffa, who our district met, who we got to meet at the our dedication at the Bazelon Field. Benjamin Jackson were the Grand Marshals, 2 World War II veterans, which is incredible. We were addressed by the oldest living Medal of Honor recipient. And there's just a lot of young people there involved in so many different ways, helping our communities, people on a military track, people from scouting, a whole bunch of different groups were there. It was a great day. And thank you to everyone in the district and the towns who made it happen.
Thank you, Mr. Pepe. Are there any other liaison or delegate reports? Dr. Lee.
I'd like to report on behalf of as a delegate assembly for New Jersey School Board Association. So the New Jersey School Board Association Delegate Assembly meets twice a year for the school board representatives from across New Jersey to meet and vote on resolutions that represent the NJSBA's positions and advocacy. I'm currently the delegate representing our board. On September 4th, I sent out email to our whole board inviting proposals and reminding us that the deadline is October the 3rd, which I also reported on our September 9th meeting. Today is the board meeting of a full board that we can approve some of those resolutions that came forth. So far, I have received 3 resolutions from our fellow board members, Mr. Jeremy Lee, Ms. Rebecca Hasuna, and myself. Thank you for the entries and contributions. And I think this will be reviewed at our new business section to look at each and all of them. I hope that we can discuss this and advance this to the delegate assembly. There is no limit on how many resolutions we can advance, and the NJSBA will work with us after we submit them to prepare them for the meeting itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Anyone else? Seeing none. We're up to item number 9, our public comment section. Individuals in our groups are invited to present their concerns, comments, and requests to the Board of Education at this time for any matters. As we have many members of the public in attendance tonight, and we want to ensure that all have the opportunity to speak, as we've done in prior meetings, public comment will be limited to 2 minutes per person per policy 0167. For those who haven't been to a board meeting before, this is the opportunity for the community to speak to the board. It's not a back and forth, although the administration will have an opportunity to answer after public comment is closed if they so wish to do so. Board members will not be responding to questions raised during public comment. Again, the purpose of this public comment period is for the public to share their views with the board. The comments and questions raised will be taken under advisement by the board. Naturally, members of the public are also welcome to share their concerns and insights with the board via email, and if you don't get to the chance to finish your thoughts during this period of public comment, we invite you to email the board, and the board will review those emails as well. We understand that people come to comment about issues that are important to them. We ask that we all act with civility and etiquette, and that we model for our children. We're all free to disagree. We are all speakers. All speakers should be treated with decorum and respect. Finally, when you get to the podium to speak, please sign in and then provide your name and municipality of residence for the record, and be advised that a video recording of this meeting will be posted on the district's website. With that, public comment period is open. So what I'm going to suggest is that you state your name and municipality for the record, start your time, and then when you're done, the next person will be able to do so as well. Okay? Right, you can, each of you will have an opportunity to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So do I write my name down here?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sierra Marcy, and today I will be discussing why I'm against the 8 to 3 school schedule change. Delaying the school start time from 7:20 to 8 a.m. is being presented as a solution to student sleep deprivation, but in reality, it does very little to address the core issue. A 40-minute delay might sound helpful, but overlooks the bigger picture and shifts the problem later into the day. With the later dismissal, academic clubs, extracurricular jobs, and homework gets pushed back. By the time students sit down to start their assignments, it's already late. We're still going to bed exhausted, just at a later hour. The promise of more sleep is quickly erased by a now compressed, more stressful evening schedule. Students may still be functioning on the same limited rest, just rearranged in a way that feels more convenient on paper but fails in practice. If you are serious about supporting student well-being, the conversation must go deeper than time. We need to address the workload students carry and make space for true rest, not just a later start time. Moving the bell to 8 a.m. won't fix what's broken. To better understand how students actually feel, I conducted a survey alongside Gabby Cardenas. Due to limited time, our sample size is relatively small. We received around 40 responses, all of which were anonymous to ensure student privacy. While the data set is not as large as we would like, the insights it provides are still worth mentioning and should not be overlooked. 80.6% of students said they do not want an 8 a.m. start. 91.7% said a 3 p.m. dismissal would interfere with their schedules, and when asked if they believed they'd benefit from an extra 40 minutes of sleep, 69.4% said no. From the open-ended responses in our survey, it was evident that most students strongly favored maintaining the current 7:20 a.m. start time. Many voiced concerns that shifting to 8 would introduce new complications, longer evenings, increased academic stress, and conflicts with work or after-school commitments. A handful of respondents proposed a slight adjustment, such as 7:40 or 7:45, but full support for an 8 a.m. start was nearly non-existent. Despite the limited sample size, the consistency in feedback made the overall sentiment unmistakable. If the administration truly values students' voices, as they so often claim, then let this be the moment you prove it by not just hearing what I've said, but acting on it.
Okay. Hello, my name is Victoria Calvamontes. I'm going to be assessing how this will affect the other schools in our district. According to the Bridgewater newsletter, it's been proposed that the middle school would adjust the times even earlier than those current, which is 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. I believe this to be extremely contradictory, and I suggest that when assessing later start times, we allow the middle school to take priority. According to the developmental psychology books of BYU, most puberty begins amongst girls at ages 10 to 11 and boys ages 11 to 12. During these important growing periods, sleep as well as nutrition are vital to the development of minds, deriving that middle schoolers are better fit for a later start time as opposed to high schoolers. Furthermore, I would like to make the argument that the high school start times allow students to prepare for more challenging work by getting them into a habit of waking up early and going to school to complete their daily obligations. An additional 40 minutes would have little to no effect on this process in a positive way. Regardless of a change in start times, students will always stay up later than ideally recommended. I propose that we keep start times the way they are and we stay on the same schedule in order to avoid any unnecessary conflict. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gabriela Cardenas, and I'm also here to represent the student body when it comes to later start times. I believe that it's extremely important to consider how this will affect low-income students and families. By pushing the start times back, especially for elementary schools, you're forcing elementary school parents to finance before care. This is not only extremely unfair, but sort of an outlandish thing to ask of a family. When students were asked about their sentiments towards this, they cited it being disgustingly inconsiderate and that parents shouldn't have to adjust their work schedules. Conversely, we can look at how this will affect high school students who work to support their families. Many students have jobs that are necessary to their well-beings or their family's well-being. And while this is outside of the scope of the educational realm, these circumstances are extremely real to the students of Bridgewater, and adjusting the start times and adds additional stress to students that is in its entirety completely unnecessary. Furthermore, on the topic of out-of-school activities, it should be noted that 80% of students have activities throughout the week, and that the change in start time would 100% interfere with. An example of this is that students at our very own school, like athletes, if they have to leave early for meets or games, for example, if an athlete needs to leave early at around 1:30, depending on when their game starts, if times were pushed back, they would be missing more school comparatively than if the start time stayed the same because they'd be leaving earlier. And yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Leona Castro, and above all, I believe it is important to assess the opinions of those who this directly affects, the students. 78% of the students stated that later start times would have negative impact on them personally. 3/4 of the students don't believe the current start time is too early, and 64% of the students' parents commute for work. Less problematic to keep, and it's the same. Please take this all into consideration when deciding what to do next.
Good evening, Superintendent Beers and members of the Board of Education. My name is Rachel Ruffner. I reached out last week via email regarding the proposed transportation options, but I felt it was important to also publicly share my perspective. I'm here tonight as a proud parent of 2 children currently enrolled in BRRSD, one at Hamilton and the other at Hillside. I'm also here as a teacher. I have been an employee of the school district of the Chathams at Chatham High School for the last 15 years. Several years ago, Michael LaSousa, then Chatham Superintendent, took a progressive approach. After a thorough review of modern research, which shows the multitude of benefits a later start time has for older students, Dr. LaSousa proposed a shift to the Chatham High School schedule. Rather than 7:40 to 2:35, he suggested the day should run from 8:20 to 3 o'clock. At the time, Chatham staff and parents shared similar concerns to those that BRRSD staff and parents now share. Now that I have worked within that new schedule for several years, I can confirm from firsthand experience that the concerns raised have not turned into problems, and I can further attest to the fact that this schedule shift has been a benefit to students, families, and staff members. I would like to pinpoint 3 areas in particular. The first, athletic dismissals. With the rotate and drop schedule, student athletes do not always miss the same class when they need to be dismissed because of games, etc. Students quickly adapt and are able to inform their teachers ahead of time if they will be leaving early or missing class entirely. The second, student alertness. I consistently had students who were either tardy because they overslept or who appeared half asleep when they entered my classroom at 7:40 a.m. Neither of these issues exists any longer. Students are much more prepared to begin the day, and tardies are rarer. And finally, staff transition. My colleagues and I were all concerned that the later dismissal would be a difficult adjustment, especially for those of us with a longer commute. As a result, there were staff members who thought,
Hello, good evening. I am Rachel's colleague, and we were not anticipating the 2-minute limit, so I'm just going to continue her message. I'm sorry. My name is Megan Simone. I am a Bridgewater parent. I have a daughter at Hillside who was previously at Adamsville. And I also work with Rachel at Chatham High School. I teach biology. Who thought they might have to find positions in other districts. However, we have not lost a single staff member because of the change. Staff members with longer commutes have grown to appreciate the time they have in the morning, which helps to compensate for arriving home later in the afternoon. I'd like to end by responding to a concern that I believe Dr. Lee raised at the last board meeting. Dr. Lee acknowledged that with the later primary school start time proposed in option 2, families are likely to incur additional before and after care costs. It is important to note that the length of the school day isn't changing. Perhaps a later start time requires a family to leverage before care for the first time. Currently, BR Cares is charging $300 a month for 2 Hamilton children to attend before care. However, these same families may no longer require aftercare, given the bus's later afternoon drop-off time. So that positions families to potentially save money, given the current monthly cost for 2 children to attend aftercare is $550.
I also want to highlight the financial impact many families have already incurred by investing in private full-day kindergarten wraparound programs, and/or half-day babysitting. My husband and I had no other option than to pay for a full-day program for our children, as the half-day program was not feasible given our work schedules. The financial impact of private kindergarten was and still is an order of magnitude more than the BR Care fees, as I just mentioned. Was that ideal? Absolutely not. But did we figure it out? Yes, we did. In a recent Bridgewater Patch article, President Singer noted that he believes it is important to make a decision that is best for students, and voting for option 2 would be doing just that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Bergman. I lived in Bridgewater for over 10 years. I'm a lifelong Somerset County resident, as well as a lifelong member of Temple Shalom right here in Bridgewater. I'm also the mother of 2 boys, one in 2nd grade at Van Holten and one in 7th grade at the middle school. I hold a master's in Jewish education and leadership, and I've dedicated my life and career to the Jewish nonprofit and communal world. In January 2024, after the atrocities of October 7th, my husband and son stood before you to share their experiences, fears, and worries. They asked you to act. Yet, as this new school year begins, we continue to experience incredible disappointments in our school district. I have spent 2 years standing behind my husband as he spoke out loudly and proudly. But now I'm here because silence is no longer an option. My Judaism is not just a part of me, it's the foundation of who I am, shaping my values as a mother, a wife, a daughter, a friend, and a member of this community. And my values demand that I speak up for an inclusion. So I am asking you, the leaders of this district, to live up to your own values, to put yourselves in our place, to ask yourselves if your children's faith or identity were at stake, how would you want them to be treated? So here's my specific ask. I ask that you establish clear district-wide protocols and guidelines to ensure Jewish students are never forced to choose between their faith and their education. Provide every principal with a calendar of Jewish holidays, including those when schools remain open, along with clear expectations for how to support students during those times. Prohibit scheduling of tests, major events, or extra academic expectations, specifically on the holidays of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Passover. And finally, communicate these guidelines to all staff and all families so they are consistent across every school. This is not a vague request. It is a concrete, actionable step that will make our schools more inclusive. And you're not alone in this work. Rabbi Dan Salzberg of Temple Shalom and the staff of the Jewish Federation right here in Somerset County are ready and willing to help. I stand here tonight to ask you to help us be solution-oriented. Thank you.
I'm here tonight to talk about integrity because there's a lack of it from the leadership. I had a phone conversation with Superintendent Beers. I can play the recording for you, Robert. I've given it all to you. Have any of you listened to it? Okay. Yes, Steve, go ahead. I'm going to address who I'm going to address. Okay, so again, I had a phone conversation with Robert Beers, And in that phone conversation, we agreed upon certain terms and conditions. Without notice, without any communication, he has changed them. I think there's a few of you in here are realtors. I know, Stephen, you're an attorney. You make an agreement, integrity, someone's word is worth something. His is not. Okay? I have given Robert the opportunity to sign my addendum, which is already in effect, because he keeps claiming that there's this document number 2 that he sent to me. I don't have it. Officer Akins Jr. doesn't have it. I'm sure Michael Voorhees doesn't even know what the terms and conditions are. So as we've discussed in multiple emails, my addendum is in effect because Robert Beers' integrity is 0 and he's untrustworthy. It's like buying a car from a used
Mr.
salesman.
Kushner, I'm just going to remind you that anything that you say
Yeah.
on public comment that might be slanderous.
Well, it's
can
not
be used
slanderous
as
when it's factual, Stephen, because not only, no, Stephen, young man, not only is this all in a verbal conversation that I have had with him, it's also in writing, so there's no slander, okay? If Mr. Beers fears his slander, go ahead.
If we need to take a recess, we can, Glenn.
Well, I'm going to talk. Don't worry. We're going on.
So, Glenn, it's up to you what you want to do. We can take a recess or not.
I'm up here because my daughter asked me to speak after the woman just spoke about Chatham. I have a friend that works in Ridge who has a different take on the late start time at Ridge. So, my name is Sheila Marcy. I'm from Raritan. So she works at Ridge. They start at 8:20. They end at 3. She said there is an issue with the children leaving for sports. She said they were told too that with the rotating block schedule, it wouldn't affect them. She had in the fall season last year students missing 3 classes because their games ended up being during her block. So they missed over 3 hours of classes in one fall season of the same class. She said the sports students continually lose an hour to 15 minutes when they have to leave for a game. She also said, she said, we don't always see them as tired because we have rotating block schedule, but block 1, they're tired. She said the tardiness, she said the children who were tardy tend to still be tardy. And for us in Bridgewater, I don't know if we'll see that. We can do data on that because with the new tardy consequence you have, that if you're tardy the 4th time, you lose an absence at the high school, that children will, this year, probably will have we won't have as many tardies because they're going to have a consequence and lose a day of school on the 4th one. So I'm not sure why Chatham has a different one than what I was told that's going on at Ridge. But my daughter wanted me to speak to let you know that what they are seeing is what they're talking about is concerns that Ridge still has.
My name is Margarita Yosifakis. I'm a Bridgewater resident. We have been residents of Bridgewater for numerous years. We pay taxes, the Bridgewater and the Somerset County taxes. Unfortunately, we do not have kids. But this next year, we wanted to host an international exchange student. We think it's kind of in our rights since we're taxpayers, and we were hoping that we could host a student in this district, only to find out that this district does not allow foreign exchange students. It would be under the J1 visa, and I don't believe that you allow that. Exchange program is very beneficial. It increases mutual understanding between Americans and people of other countries. Hosting is a great way for us to bring international perspectives into our classrooms and to prepare the students to be successful in an increasing globalized world. It also opens young minds to understand the differences between different cultures, different languages, and the roles they will play in their future careers in college and in their jobs. So what if I moved from a different district and I had an international exchange student living with me? Would they not be allowed to attend a school in the Bridgewater Raritan district? I think, I can't even think of anything negative to have an international exchange student. I'm already paying taxes, so I contribute to the school. We are, not I. And the presence of international students in our classrooms benefits the American students, it benefits the schools by promoting this cultural curiosity, and also global mindset and understanding. So it also helps the students develop for future. Many jobs are global. These days you don't even have to go to another country, it's all over Zoom, but at least you understand a little bit of different cultures. So I'm asking, as a taxpayer, I'm asking the board to please review to host an international exchange student for the next school year. Thank you.
My name's Laura Kress. I'm the president of the Bridgewater Raritan, the Education Association. And I actually was going to put a zipper on it tonight. But what I want to say is that I've had a lot of people reach out to me over the weekend, like a lot of people. A lot of them staff that live here. And it's about the transportation time. And I guess, I encourage those people to reach out to the superintendent because I believe their voices should be heard. I also have some emails I forwarded to him. And as well, what I want to say is that I'm not going to talk about how I feel about this right now because I do believe that this is going back under some sort of review, that option 2 has not been voted on yet, and that it's not a slam dunk. So I definitely see points. I understand that there's 2 sides to this and maybe 3 sides, but I don't think we should be a community divided over this. And I get the feeling that's starting to brew. And so maybe there's some way to go back to the drawing board, and I think that that might be happening. And I think that would be a good thing because we have enough turmoil in the world right now, and we don't need more turmoil here. Have a good night.
Good evening. I want to express my disappointment that the district scheduled major events, including back to school night, the book fair, map testing, and even threw in a last-minute Spirit Day on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, the holiest time of the year for Jewish families. While I appreciated that Mr. Rao changed the date of back to school night once it was brought to his attention, it's difficult to understand how the original schedule was approved. Scheduling map testing on a religious holiday forced Jewish students and families to choose between honoring their faith and meeting academic responsibilities. That is not inclusion, it is inequity. After I spoke up, I was contacted by residents who shared their own experiences of anti-Semitism in our schools. Some chose to sign a letter publicly, but many were afraid to sign, afraid of repercussions for themselves or their children. The fact that families feel they must stay silent says more about our leadership than it does about those families. This isn't just about one scheduling mistake, it's about a pattern. Last year, Mr. Beers invited Jewish parents, including my husband, to join a forthcoming task force on equity and inclusion. The task force was never created. Our requests for updates went unanswered, and the silence sent an even louder message. Our voices are not valued. When I privately emailed the issues with map testing on Rosh Hashanah, I shared that my own children were anxious about needing to make up the test during class time. Mr. Beers, you replied that map testing isn't high stakes. Yet, those very scores determine placement or removal from gifted and talented programs. Do you know how hard it is to focus on making up a test when you're a 7-year-old who loves to read and knows that the rest of your class is at their once weekly library visit? To wrap up, I'm asking that no major assessments or events be scheduled on major Jewish holidays, which include Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the first night of Passover. If your task force is not moving forward, there must be another clear process for accountability, so families don't face the same issues year after year. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Once, twice. Thank you all for your comments. The board really does ingest them and consider them. Does the administration have anything they would want to respond to?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, I'm closing that portion of public comment. We're up to item number 10, the approval of minutes.
So moved.
Are there any changes to the minutes that need to be made? Seeing none, Mr. Lumsky, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Asuna.
Yes.
Mr. Joshi.
Yes.
Ms. Lochran.
Yes.
Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Pepe.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Ms. Calistri.
Yes.
Mr. Singer.
Yes, the motion passes. We're moving on to our action items, which start with Personnel 2611 through Personnel 2613.
So moved. Second.
Are there any questions or comments? I just want to echo what's been said before, thanking the negotiations committee for the time that they've taken to work on these memorandums of agreement, as well as our administration and our attorney. So thank you all. Mr. Lumsky, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Asuna. Yes. Mr. Joshi.
Yes.
Ms. Lochran.
Yes.
Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Pepe.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Ms. Calistri.
Yes.
Mr. Singer.
Yes, the motion passes. Up next is Curriculum 2618 through Curriculum 2623.
So moved.
Any questions? Seeing none. Mr. Lumsky, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Asuna.
Yes.
Mr. Joshi.
Yes.
Ms. Lochran.
Yes.
Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Pepe.
I will abstain on curriculum 2620 and 21. Yes on everything else.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Ms. Calistri.
Yes.
Mr. Singer.
Yes, the motion passes. Up next is Business 2633 through Business 2640.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Dr. Lee.
For public information, can we get clarification of 2638? What is that change of order?
Sure. The change order for Bradley Gardens addition is due to replacing some concrete wall with adding sheetrock, as the condition of the concrete was in poor condition, and also in the excavation of where the cafeteria is going to go, there were underground pipes. So modifications needed to be made to the footings, the concrete footings, to go around them. The HVAC upgrades at JFK, Van Holt, and Hamilton. This is for permit and plan review fees by the Borough of Raritan that were typically waived. HVAC upgrades at Bradley Gardens. This was for additional work as they took down ceiling tiles and exposed a lot of unseen areas. There were a lot of openings that would not pass code, so they had to be all blocked up for fire stopping. So that was for additional work to close up all the gaps. For the middle school addition, this is for additional work that was not in the original drawings, such as sanitary line routing for the faculty restrooms. On the drawings were a more straightforward direction, but once the ceilings were removed, then it was discovered that it wasn't straightforward. There were a lot of changes to the piping. The high school baseball field. This is to bring up code requirements for the underground power for the scoreboard. So there was trenching involved and conduit, as the existing conditions would not have passed inspection. And also the addition of a huddle camera for the baseball field. And the electrical upgrades at the school, there was a main breaker that was failing and tripping at one of the high school buildings. So this was for the contractor to perform testing to identify what the issue was.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm going to thank the Van Holten PTO for the pumpkins and their mini grants to the staff. We appreciate the support. With that, Mr. Lumsky, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Asuna?
Yes.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Ms. Lochran?
I will abstain from business 2633 and yes to everything else.
Dr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Calistri?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes, the motion passes. We're up to Special Services 2610.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Lumsky, please call the roll.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Asuna?
Yes.
Mr. Joshi?
Yes.
Ms. Lochran?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Dr. Lee, sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Calistri?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yep, motion passes. We're up to other 2604, for which I'll take, 2604, other. Is that not what we're on?
No, you're on it.
Second.
Okay. Any questions that need to be taken into closed session for HIP? Seeing none, Mr. Lumsky, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Asuna?
Yes.
Mr. Joshi?
Abstain.
Ms. Lochran?
I will recuse myself.
Dr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Calistri?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes, the motion passes. Finally, we're up to policy 2606.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I do.
Mr. Lee?
As you know, I made some proposals to our original policy amendment focused on promoting the transparency that I think we can all do a little bit better as a board, hopefully. And some of these proposals included making sure that as a board, we get to see the invoices and we get to understand what we're using our legal services for. A portion of this as well was to improve accountability across our district, particularly as it relates to our district bills. And I think that as a result, I would like to see these changes made, but I understand that the committee did not approve those. But I think that because the current policy in place with the current revisions doesn't meet the standard of transparency that I think we should be pursuing as a district, I plan to vote against the policy, and I hope my fellow board members will also join me in also voting against it. Thank you.
Anyone else? I just want to say that the policy that we're voting on, we've had this policy for many years, and the only reason it's actually up right now is because Strauss Esme had updates to it. So I understand that you have a different opinion on what could be accomplished with this, but we had a lengthy discussion at FFT about the propriety of legal service invoices being made available and the confidentiality issues that go along with that. So that's why, in my opinion, the suggested revisions were not appropriate.
May I respond?
Go ahead.
Obviously, we want to make sure that confidentiality is protected, and part of releasing the invoices won't necessarily violate the confidentiality because we're simply discussing what the legal bills are, and we're discussing what legal services were procured, specific cases relating to any confidential case materials or any sort of confidential material related to students obviously would not be disclosed as a part of this. Rather, the purpose of my policy amendments are to make sure that the board, including the public, are aware of how we're procuring these legal services, how they play a role in our district. And I think that it improves governance, it improves the transparency, and by no means should we discuss confidential matters through the releasing of invoices, but we can redact things as well, and I think that's something that we can consider.
Well, and as we discussed at FFT, every single meeting, there's a bills list that tells you how much was paid to the attorneys, and every month there's a financial report that goes into how much was paid to the attorneys, and every year we have a budget that suggests what the budget is for these attorneys. So I think that we're fully transparent in that to the extent that we can be, because all legal matters are confidential. It's not a matter of picking which legal matters are confidential. They're all confidential. So that's all I'll say about that.
I'd also like to add, just for the board's overall understanding, that there's not one government institution that would operate any differently than we currently do. And I mean municipality, at the county level, at the state level, we all operate primarily exactly the way our Board of Education does and our policy does.
That's correct. That's correct, Mrs. Lochran. And again, I've said it over and over, but I reject the notion, and we're making blanket statements about this board not being transparent. I'm gonna call nonsense on that, because there is a policy, and again, when I had asked the questions, are there any other schools who have the same language that you proposed? I did not see any. Right, so there were none to speak of. So to say that this board is not transparent is not a truthful statement. And I think we continue to pretend that there's something there, and it's not. And as I had said in our meeting, I do think it's very important to really take a look on how operations run and how they can be run more effectively before we just start making random decisions on how to improve things without having a clear understanding on how the process works in the first place.
May I respond? Thank you for those pieces of feedback. I guess maybe focusing on what Steve mentioned, you talked a lot about how we approved the bills list. We're approving the checks that are made out to our attorney. We're not actually looking at the legal services that we procure, understanding what sort of work the board attorney is doing for the Board of Education. And so this goes a step further in asking for our approval and making sure that there's another level of oversight on that. To address Jen's point, I think that there's an opportunity for us to be even better than whatever the standard is set by the state. We can always go a step further, and we can be a model example of what real transparency looks like in a school district. And then to address your point, Mr. Beers, we had an email exchange about this. I shared with you a district, 100 and Central, which has this policy language in place.
Not with your language.
It's
not with your language. So I'm just going to say I've got to continue to say this. That's not a truthful statement, because it did not have your language.
Are you talking about the two paragraphs? Because
I'm talking about the language you proposed. is not found in any other district's policy. Yes, you forwarded me Hunterdon and Central's, but that did not align with what you're proposing.
I'll have to double check then. And then the point about me saying that we're not transparent, I never said that. I think we are, to the extent that we are transparent. I want to emphasize that this is about making us even more transparent and about bringing us to that next level where we have real transparency that is a model, hopefully, for other districts to follow. I'm not saying we're not transparent at all, and I don't know why that was said, but that's all.
Thank you, Jeremy. Anyone else? Dr. Lee.
Wouldn't it make sense to look at that Hunterdon Central policy then? Because this is out of the scope of the,
Well, that
to the whole board to see.
That Hunterdon Central policy wasn't sent to the FFT committee to consider.
Okay.
So
Sounds like
they
might
could
be a
not have
possible.
considered that. What was considered was the proposed language, and the FFT committee did not recommend that proposed language.
Okay.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Mr. Lumsky.
Mr. Lee,
No.
Ms. Asuna,
Yes.
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Ms. Lochran,
Yes.
Dr. Lee,
No.
Mr. Pepe,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Calistri.
Yes.
Mr. Singer.
Yes, the motion passes. We're now up to old business. Is there any old business that needs to be discussed? Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, in terms of old business, I just had a couple of questions about, and I know we discussed it briefly at our last meeting. I'm not sure if old business is exactly for that because it wasn't something based off of the agenda. But, sorry, 1 minute. I guess I wanted to ask a couple of questions about the school start times. I know we have a lot of people that came out here, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who did make their voices heard. I think it's very important that we listen to the students, the parents, the
It's a
teachers.
point of order. We conduct business amongst ourselves. We don't address the public.
Wait, 1 minute. Let me speak. Okay. Anyways, I just, because a lot of people did mention that it's difficult for parents to have their kids be in before school programs with the later start time with the elementary school. Like, have you guys considered putting the elementary school in a different slot there? Can you sort of shift between the different times where, you know, we have our different time slots, but maybe different schools go here versus there? Is that possible with the current plan, or is it not? With option 2 or option 1?
What is it exactly that we're asking?
Sorry, I don't know if trying to get some clarification here. Could you, like, let's say, swap the middle school with the elementary school, or elementary with the high school, and like with those different sort of brackets of schools in the current option 2 versus option 1 plan?
We conducted a transportation analysis, and when we looked at all factors, and one being cost is one of the measures. The other measure being regaining lost instructional time from 3 years ago. We boiled those down to 2 options. Those 2 options were shared with the Board of Education at the last meeting. So that's where we are.
So there's no flexibility between those 2 options?
I'm not prepared to comment on that. You could give me a call anytime if you'd like to discuss.
I just want to note that when we talk about swapping the middle school and primary schools, the middle school has 34 buses, the primary school has 59 buses. So when the transportation expert is looking at the options, that's what they're looking at. Like, we're trying to change the number of tiers that we have, and it's not so easy as a like-to-like switch, right? Like, so, you know, the high school has 49, and this doesn't include the special ed needs, which at the primary school is even larger. If you add that, the primary school actually has 80 buses that are needed, and it's it's in itself something to be dealt with, and that is what, when we discussed previously these options, that's why these are the remaining options available.
All right. No, that's helpful. My second question on this is, obviously with option 2, there might be potentially big changes in terms of enrollment in before and after care programs. Has BR Cares been thinking about how this might impact their operations, increases and decreases in demand for different programs at our different schools? Like, I guess the BR Cares program, have they been doing any preparation ahead of any sort of potential decision by the board?
So, just really briefly, and I don't mean to step on your toes, but like we've discussed this at FFT before, where BR Cares is scalable, and 3 years ago it wasn't at all of our schools. Now it's a unified program across the district that is scalable by the number. They look at the number of students enrolled and determine how many people that they need to hire based on that. We have someone that is directly in charge of BR Cares. This is his job, and so I think that you were there when he was at a meeting where he gave an update on BR Cares and how the program is run. So I think that would be a question for him, but it is something that is within his purview to accomplish.
Okay. My next question is, obviously, we didn't have a lot of time to do much or, do our research before the board had to do our straw poll. The presentation wasn't shared with us beforehand, so we were pretty much making that decision.
You got it at FFT. Excuse me, Jeremy. You received that presentation at FFT. Again, that's not true.
And you straw
So
polled
here
in
we go
favor of
again.
it.
It's not true. You were shared the options. Everyone was shared the options we were looking at, not that specific. Sure. So I'll say I have no problem debating things, but we've got to agree on a certain set of facts. And there's only so much BS I can take sitting up here. I mean, you had that info.
We had it at each committee meeting. So
Including community
academic
relations,
committee
we had a special meeting just to review
Can I raise
it.
a point of order?
It's not a point of order.
The point of order is for us to come back to the topic instead of debating non-important things.
Well, here's the
What's
important
question?
thing.
Yes.
That we speak the truth. So an accusation was made that this was not shared and somehow it was done in a clandestine way. That cannot be farther from the truth. It went to every single committee within this Board of Education, and people had the opportunity to do their research, to discuss amongst themselves, and then we saw a presentation that came before the entire board later. We were extremely careful to make sure that every single person who sits up here had all of the information that they need. Now, we can disagree on the outcomes, that's fine, but please don't disrespect me and the administration to the point where now we are lying about the fact that you didn't have this information. By saying you didn't have the info is a lie.
Actually, hold on a second. I just want to clarify that the FFT committee on which you sit had a meeting in which Mr. Archer came and presented to the FFT committee on August 19th. So I'm not quite sure what you were getting at there.
And the presentation is in the directory, so you have access to it. Is that correct?
I continue to raise a
No,
point
no,
of order.
wait, let me finish. Is that correct? You have access to the FFT directory?
I do.
Okay, just checking.
If we're talking about transportation, let's talk about transportation. May I ask a question about transportation?
Yes, however, the question was asked why we didn't have time to review it. And we are addressing that question. So it's not as if we're talking about something that wasn't within the realm of the question or the scope. We're addressing that question. With that said, please, raise your point.
I would like to follow up on the status of a request that I made. There was also shared concern from, I think, Mr. Pepe and Mr. Lee on the possibility of tightening up the operation window of the bus. I wonder if that action has been followed on.
I think I made it clear at the last meeting, but I have no problem in clarifying it again. As we start in a certain project, you set parameters. Right? Now, will things be adjusted or change as you get closer? And do we take the feedback and say, yes, we want to get that start time closer to 9 o'clock if we go with option 2? Yes. So, I mean, that is one of the things that we share with our consultant that we can work towards. Now, does that mean it's going to happen? No, but it means that it's something that we can present. And yes, we're working towards. So to answer your question, yes, it's feedback that we receive from the Board of Education and the community at large. And we say, yes, we're gonna try to tighten that.
Would I expect would we hear about a updated plan of a tightened operation window with
When we receive, I can answer that question.
Okay.
It's when we receive we have to do all of our district routing. I mean, we went through this at the last meeting. Now we've got to go through, we've got to look at the parameters, find our routes, see where we can develop efficiencies. And then we're looking to have all of that information. You're looking at December or January, where we can truly present, okay, these are the times we're looking at, and we're going to put these routes out to bid. So that's what we're looking at, December, January.
I think
let me finish what I was asking. So are we looking forward to a school start time for the primary schools that's not well beyond 9 o'clock? That's what you're working on right now. I just want to make sure that's the case. And we expect to hear that, you said, in January?
That's correct, January.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I, oh, sorry.
so. From what I remember from the last meeting, and I think several of us asked the gentleman this question, and one being, you know, I think he mentioned it, and I think Mr. Beers mentioned it as well, that as of now, we don't know how many kindergartners we're going to have, right? Just going over something from memory. Secondly, we were gaining the lost instructional time as well. So that was on the table. Third was the two-tier system of the busing, which played a key role. And so that was that. And then I asked him a question, so that means we can still tweak the times a little bit. And he said, absolutely. He came back. And he said, absolutely, because we don't know how many students we're going to end up having by next year. So these times that are here will be changed a little bit. That's what he had indicated. So this is not set in stone because we don't know some of these variables. What we do know, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the number of buses will be less in these two options. It's a cost savings. We do know that we have a large township with a large student population. So what he indicated is it is complicated. So I don't think a lot of these times are set yet. We don't know, and he did indicate that we're going to take a look at it. So these are all of the things that I remember, I forget the gentleman's name, but Mr. Archer saying that we are still looking at that. And our task was to say which one we preferred. We voted, we preferred option 2. Hold on a second. And that's still not final yet. We don't know until the bus routes are scheduled.
And you're right. So what happens is, like last month, I received feedback from the Board of Education. Now we're working with the consultant. We're looking at what our options are. And the administration is going to roll out what the plan is heading into next year. And that'll be in the December or January timeframe. So with that being said, we should know that there's not going to be a formal Board of Ed resolution on this, right? Because this is an administrative function. This is operations. So what we did is we elicited feedback from the Board of Ed, and we continue to elicit feedback from the community and the Board of Education, and we're going to utilize that in our decision-making. So there are a lot of moving pieces here, and the best I can tell everyone is nothing's set in stone until it's set in stone.
And lastly, we've had in the last several years, we've had a couple of major schedule refinements, if you will. One being the block schedule, and people are up in arms that the block scheduling wasn't going to work. This is going to be complicated. The second thing that occurred was the the lunch period, which was chaotic. In the beginning, people didn't like it. We had a lot of complaints. It's a transition period. I think the administration has heard all the comments from us, as well as the parents, students. They will come up with a plan that works for everyone. I have faith in them. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think any suggestion that I'm saying that anyone is not transparent is just ridiculous. I don't know why people are saying that about me. But I have two questions. Was the presentation that was delivered by Mr. Archer at our public board meeting, was that shared with the entire board before the meeting or after the meeting?
I can actually answer that. If you look in the gold notes that come on the Friday before, the link to the presentation is in there.
But was it also available for the public?
I don't know. I know it was available.
No, typically, and we've debated this, Jeremy. We share it immediately after it hits, but that presentation you saw at the Board of Ed meeting is maybe there are a few edits that were made, but nothing substantive versus the presentation that you saw at the FFT committee meeting. So let's again, for transparency's sake, let's be clear on what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that I'm increasingly getting frustrated by the, whether you want to call it accusation or implied comments, that there wasn't enough time given or that there wasn't transparency. Because most of us show up on time and prepared to all of our meetings. And, you know, we've had these discussions in every single committee meeting, including community relations, which typically doesn't even meet most of the time during the year. So we went that extra step. I'd also like to add my personal feedback, which is that I don't even buy into the science of the later start times. I never have. I argued incessantly with Jessica about it when it came up in the years that she had brought it up post-pandemic. The reason why I was supportive of this change had to do with not only that we're reducing the number of buses, but we're also reducing costs. So those of us that have voted on the budget and put forth the budget and approved it, we all know that the district has been facing budget issues and costs and rising costs. So when we're looking at decreasing enrollment and we're looking at making things more, cost effective, this was an opportunity to look at our transportation situation, which is one of the most expensive, or one of the most every year over year increasing cost. I don't remember the exact percentage, but it was significant over the last 5 years. This was an opportunity for us to address it. And so that's why I was supportive of it. It had nothing to do with later start times. So I just wanted to make that clear, that was it. That's all I had to add to that.
I don't know how many times I have to clarify this. I didn't make any accusations. I didn't make any implied comments that we are not anything like untransparent. I see Mr. Beers walked out of the room, but you know, I took the time to actually compare my proposed changes with the Straws Estimate Policy Manual.
I'm sorry, we're talking about something different now.
No.
I thought we were talking about school start times.
It's still old business. Because
okay, so are we done with the school start time conversation?
I'm trying to address an accusation made against me
That's not really appropriate for old business, I think.
Okay.
But like, that's why I'm asking, like, Jen was talking about school start time. Is this on school start time still?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Lee, please.
I think that we should listen to the voices that came to speak to us from the community here today, as well as look at the emails that has been sent to us. I see there's significant concern about the later school start time for the primary schools, for the young kids. I think we should take into that consideration seriously when we make our decisions for transportation. Thank you.
All right. This is a point about the school start times and the buses. I know some people are worried that we're going to face a lot of divisiveness and conflict and difference of opinion in our community. And that's fair because I think at the end of the day, no one agrees 100% on anything, right? And we know that school start times, along with a lot of other issues that have been discussed here at this board, are one of these areas where divisiveness is going to brew. It's pretty inevitable, especially since it's a big challenge that we're facing as a board, right? Deciding between two options, both of which have their benefits and their negatives, and which puts us in a difficult position to make a decision that'll adversely affect other people and in return, positively benefit others. And I think one of the things that's important, and one of the things that I think is important to know is, there's no such thing as a better world for everybody, right? Someone's got to foot the bill. But I think as a community and really as a board, I think rather than run away from conflict, difference of opinion, we should try and embrace our differences of opinion and try and agree to disagree as human beings. And I hope that, as adults, we can at least set an example and try to learn to disagree with civility and rather than completely avoid conflict. And this doesn't just apply to school start times and figuring out what sort of option we want, but it just applies to literally any topic or discussion we have as a board. Rather than always focus on all the good stuff, we should be having these difficult conversations and embracing our difference of opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Jeremy. But it starts with being truthful. Then we can have a debate. But I do have to say there was one thing you said that was incorrect. At this point, it's an administrative decision. I had said before, this isn't going to be a resolution by the Board of Ed. The administration is going to take a look at what the options we have, and then we're going to share that. But there's not going to be a resolution, so you're not going to be voting for A or B. We're taking things in, and then we're going to act accordingly. Just so I just want to make sure we're clear on that, because this falls under operations, and I don't know how certain you are of what the roles of the board are versus the roles of the admin. So this is a role of the admin. Thank you.
I'm well aware of my role.
Mr. Beers, you had to excuse yourself for a moment. Can you remind the board the approximate reduction of buses and the cost per bus, or maybe Kevin, that's a review on you.
We were looking at initially four routes, so those are triple tier routes. And I think we'd said before, you're looking at contracted routes, you're looking at an average cost between $100,000 and $130,000 for a contracted route. So those four buses, yes, it would be in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $500,000 in savings.
And I'm not asking you to make a commitment, but we did also discuss the potential of late buses in the future.
Absolutely, because you're 100% correct, Mrs. Lochran, where one of the things that we did take a look at, and it's something we're examining, that if we went with a certain structure, could this provide additional services to the community, such as late buses, especially at that middle school level, where it seems to be more problematic. And I think we all agreed that would be the point of emphasis if we were to go down that road, where to start it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to go on the record and say that we did receive the survey. I sit on two committees, personnel and academic, and we did receive the study, the transportation study. Yeah, the transportation study. So it was not, when I came here, I was prepared. I had witnessed it twice.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment for full transparency's sake that Mr. Beers and I both had a conversation, I'm sure many of us did outside of the presentation, just about the fact that I'm sure none of us want schools, and especially our elementary children, to start the day late. Like ideally, all of our children would start before 9 o'clock. So we've put forth that, and hopefully things can change, but I think it was a worst case scenario what we presented, and hopefully it can tighten up. But we know that no one wants anyone to go to school so late, but we have to do what we have to do here. And as a parent who had two children go through Eisenhower, I can say, like, it affected my work schedule. I hired a morning nanny. Like, I did what I had to do because someone has to start late, and I didn't enjoy it. But, you know, one of the schools had to start late, and my children were walkers, so there was no bus, and it was even later. Unfortunately, a district this size has a school that's going to start late.
No, those are all great points, and again, I appreciate the conversation that we had. And look, another thing that we're exploring, and you'd have to look no farther than Bernards Township, to see how we could accommodate students and parents in the way that they do. And it's simple in this way, where their primary schools or elementary schools, as they call them there, they start the day at 9 o'clock, but students can be dropped off at 8:30. Right, and they have that buffer where, let's face it, if school for them starts at 9 o'clock, and we've spoken about this, if it starts at 9, most likely kids are getting on the bus at 8:30 or sometime around then, and then if parents have the ability to drop off that half hour before, that can really help everyone involved. So I mean, that's one of the things that is probably easy to get accomplished, and for the sake of helping parents out. And certainly.
Can I just ask a follow-up on that?
Sure.
Is that like a BR, like their equivalent of a BR Cares, or is that, hey, our doors are open, we have staff here that we're paying? You can come in if
The latter.
if you need to, okay.
Yeah, the
And I
latter.
see that in a lot of schools. That would be a tremendous option.
Sure, and it happens more. I mean, we've got Mr. Voorhees here who knows what it's like at the high school beforehand. A lot of times what happens, okay, at the high school or larger schools in the district, it's, all right, buses are dropping kids off at the high school, it's 6:45, the first ones are rolling in. And then there are certain areas where kids can go, right? They're supervised. Many times kids will go, let's say in the high school, they go to the cafeteria, they get themselves breakfast, what have you, sit down, and then get ready for their day. And those are the types of practices that I think we can filter down to the lower levels. Yeah. It'll take planning and coordination of probably making people's hair stand on end when they hear this. But I think something like that, to your point, is easy, where you could pay a few people to say, look, if you're dropping off at 8:30, you go to the cafeteria, there's supervision.
It's a shorter window at my school. I think it's only 10, 15 minutes, but you get, I think, honestly, I think I have kids who look forward to that 15 minutes at the beginning of the day just as much as
absolutely
everything that comes after it. There are clubs that can run during that time. There are safety patrol helping out. So I think that's a good point, that worst case scenario 9:20 wouldn't necessarily mean like you walk in the door right at 9:20.
Correct.
At least I would hope not.
Yeah, we'll be able to make amends.
And I think the other great, currently the intermediate schools go to run until almost 3:30, 3:40. So there are students who might need supervision, who are in school really late and start really late. And I think there may be just as many, even though it's not ideal for primary students, you do gain a lot of opportunities in that 4th and 5th grade year. If you're out at 2:30 for extracurriculars, for activities to get out and start.
Yeah, and it really, right, the calculus of this, so to speak, is, right, someone's going to go to school later around 9 o'clock with triple-tiered busing. Someone's going to be in that time slot, and it's really for us to figure out who is it that's in that time slot and what's most effective.
Again, my district, we officially start at 8:40, but we have carte blanche. We don't have any busing, and we could start at 8 a.m. We could start at 8:30. We could start at 7:30. 8:40, 8:45, when a lot of kids roll in, seems to work well. Again, that's not 9:20. I agree that that's a difference, but.
What grade do you teach?
I don't think, I teach 5th. It's a K through 6 school, pre-K through 6.
So everyone comes in. No, it's.
And I got plenty of kids who come in tired too, at least in 5th grade. I'm not sure kindergarten, but.
Maybe it's the subject.
What are you talking about?
I've been there, Mike. I know. All right, thank you.
Dr. Lee.
I want to make a comment about the children's habit and how they behave and how they act. I think for younger kids, very often that they wake up or wake and alert for a period of time, we want to use that as the most optimal instruction time. Then they become tired, then they become hungry, then they become distracted. I think that when we consider the school start time for the younger kids, we need to consider that factor as well, so that our instruction for younger kids are also efficient, making the most out of their day. Thank you.
I had one more question about the school start times. Obviously with the high school starting a little bit later, like typically, do you anticipate if option 2 was our go forward in terms of a plan, like what sort of sports might be impacted by that. Maybe they have, just out of curiosity, where kids would have to get early dismissal. No. At the high school level, because we're moving from 7:20 to 8. Are there any sort of
I thought we discussed that. Mr. Denise already.
Yeah,
reviewed this.
and look, when you have an away game at a place that's far away, kids will have to miss some class time out of that last class. For home games, there will be no delay because they start at either 4 o'clock or 4:15, and that's for the fall and for some of the spring sports. Yeah, and no, that's a good point. And look, one of the things that it also can help us with is as follows. Right now, the school gets out at 2 o'clock. One of the challenges that we have with kids is, all right, so you get out at 2 o'clock and you have a game at 4. That's a lot of dead time for kids and supervision, et cetera. This could condense that somewhat. But yeah, there's no getting around it. There will be sometimes when there's an away game that's somewhat far where kids may miss class time. But it should not be regular, and I know that was one of the problems with the proposals that were initially bantered about years ago with a dismissal time of 3:30. Then that would have affected everything. This does not, and I can say that Bernards Township gets out at the same time. They get out at 2:58. There are other schools that are in the neighborhood. Probably the average time that schools get out is between 2:40 and 3 o'clock. That's probably the sweet spot. And yeah, so that's how it is. But will there be insurmountable disruption to athletics? No, and that's coming from someone who was a head coach for 13 years at various high schools.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Joshi.
Wasn't there a talk a few years ago at the state level to have schools start at 8 o'clock, high schools? I think there was a push for that, and then it just went by the wayside. I don't know what happened to that. Yeah. Just like kindergarten, right?
Then, yeah, I remember being on one of those committees.
Yeah, it was
then
about 2 years ago.
the state recognized and the DOE recognized, well, if you mandate that, you have to pay for it. So, that made everyone back off.
And that was a big push for it, I remember.
There was.
Yeah.
There was.
All right. Is there any other old business? All right, we're going to move on to new business.
I have new business.
Yes.
I've sent you all an email, everybody on the board, and thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Bridgewater Raritan Board of Education submit the following resolution to the NJSBA Delegates Assembly for consideration. This resolution addresses a growing statewide challenge that strikes at the core of how school boards function. Across New Jersey, local board elections are becoming increasingly politicized, with outside groups, wedge issue campaigns, and high-dollar fundraising targeting what has traditionally been nonpartisan, community-based elections. That's leading to deeper polarization, more harassment, and real intimidation, not just toward board members, but sometimes towards staff as well. In some districts, this has even required greater coordination with law enforcement to keep meetings safe and ensure people feel secure serving. We have been fortunate here, but this is a part of a larger pattern that can't be ignored. This isn't just a Bridgewater Raritan issue, it is happening across the state, and the Delegates Assembly is exactly the right place for NJSBA to examine the trend and take a clear policy position. The goal is to protect the integrity of school governance and keep the focus where it belongs, on students, families, and safe, functional board environments. So I'm going to read the proposed resolution to the NJSBA Delegates Assembly. Whereas boards of education are entrusted to provide safe, supportive, and nonpartisan schools where students can learn free from fear, intimidation, and the harmful effects of politicization. I'm sorry, that word always gets me. Whereas boards of education across New Jersey share a collective responsibility to preserve nonpartisan, community-based governance as a cornerstone of public education, and whereas recent events, including political violence, a continued rise in schools and mass shootings, and escalating partisan conflicts over educational policies have deepened instability and division in communities, and whereas politically motivated groups from outside communities are increasingly targeting local school board elections using wedge issues, partisan influence, and high-dollar fundraising to weaken nonpartisan grassroots governance and create an atmosphere that discourages community members from board service, and whereas increasing political polarization and outside partisan activity has also led to heightened hostility and intimidation directed at board members and school staff, discouraging community members from serving and undermining effective governance and school operations. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bridgewater Raritan Board of Education urges the New Jersey School Boards Association Delegates Assembly to examine the growing impact of political interference and outside partisan influence in Board of Education elections. And be it further resolved that the Bridgewater Raritan Board of Education proposes that the New Jersey School Boards Association adopt a policy position to advocate for policy reforms and legislative measures that will help school governance remain nonpartisan, community-driven, and focused on serving students and families. I have a motion on the table. Oh, did I not? I moved. I don't know if I did that right.
So, and I appreciate that. I have questions about procedure for delegate assembly resolutions, because I don't recall, we haven't done it since I've been on the board, and I don't recall if it's been done prior to that. Do you? I know you recall everything, but
It hasn't been done since I've been here.
okay.
on the
So
board.
the
And there's a-
question then becomes, do we need a motion on for
If you're going to put a resolution forward, yes.
All right then. We have a
I mean,
motion. We
that
have a
would be-
second.
That would be.
Now we have discussion.
Just, I've looked at, I've been curious because there are boards that put forward a lot of these. Sorry, if you don't mind, Mr. President. There have been boards in the past that have put forward a lot of these every single assembly. So out of curiosity, I've gone back and looked at their minutes, and it seems like they treat it just like any other resolution, at least from what I could see. Just like any other thing you would act on.
One further procedure question before we move on to actual commentary. If we submit a proposed resolution to NJSBA, they then work with us to tweak it for a final assembly vote, if they accept it in the first place, correct?
I believe so. I'm not sure if it goes to because there's a resolution subcommittee, and Ms. Lee or Mr. Walker might know this better, that will ultimately decide whether they recommend it or not. I'm not sure if the review with us process happens before or after that step. I know the deadline's October 3rd. I'm not sure if they can't do anything after October 3rd.
Well, that's,
so I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
But
I would just ask that you take a look into that if you could. Go ahead.
Can I chime in for answering this procedural question? My understanding is that we, as a board, pass a resolution to advance our board's recommendation to take it to the DA. Then DA has a committee that will assign a lawyer to work with us to perfect the language, do background search, whether it has been done before. If it has been done, it won't go further. But if it hasn't been, then they will work with us on language and the scope and the background, and it will appear at the program book at the DA before the meeting. And then everyone will be sent a copy of that program for them to consider, and then they come to me. So yes, we need to push forward as if it's a resolution that this board all
So
agree to.
the reason I ask all of this is because if there's language that we want to tweak,
Right.
we need to, I mean, it needs to be done tonight, but I want to make sure that there's language that can be changed after tonight
Yeah.
for October 3rd.
Yes.
And that's what you seem to be saying. So
Yes.
thank you. I appreciate that.
And
All right.
just one other point on that. I believe that ultimately what happens at the delegate assembly is they take the resolution and distill it down to something that they can enter into their manual of positions. So what is actually voted on, it's the replacement language. There's a slightly fancier term, but they'll distill it into something that can fit neatly into their policy books.
So this all falls under the policy and advocacy manual, which we found on the NJSP website. And so, yeah, you have the long resolution. It might just say, okay, we advocate that Board of Ed elections be nonpartisan. That may be the language that came out, if it's accepted to the resolution committee. That's what all might be said. But they're not gonna, you understand the support before it, but it's gonna be very simplified. And this falls under, as far as I know, under 2 policy areas. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
Well, I've also sent a policy, not that I actually got to talk on my own resolution
Sorry, go.
yet.
Yeah, you should talk about the resolution.
But I did. I did submit a policy along with that. I do not foresee making a motion to adopt it for first reading today. I figured I would send it to academic committee because I believe that it would fall under academic committee.
It has to go.
But also, I don't think it would be summarized necessarily as just nonpartisan governance. I think it's in the title. Well, go on. Are we at the part where we're actually discussing the policy?
So then it will not be ready for the 3rd.
Well,
No. I've sent a policy I've sent a policy and I've sent the resolution for the delegates assembly in 2 separate documents.
So, thank you for all the procedure and process responses. I appreciate that. With that said, as you are putting the motion forward, you want the comment. Go ahead.
Right, and so really, the reason why I proposed this was because I feel like we need to advocate for, and also as a board, take a stand at safeguarding, our hold on, I'm pulling this up, to safeguard our nonpartisanship. So it isn't just about saying that boards should be nonpartisan. I think that we need to consider advocating for safeguarding that, which is why I put forth this policy. I did share it with board leadership, and I wasn't fully prepared to share it with the board until like quite literally the last possible minute. And I also did follow up to make sure that it met the procedural guidelines of the delegates assembly. So I feel like I already took up the floor on both my introduction and the resolution itself. So if anybody has any questions or comments, by all means.
Thank you for submitting this to us for review. I literally just now got a second to review it, so I haven't really thought about this in depth. But you talked a lot about, and we hear this a lot, nonpartisan, nonpartisan, nonpartisan. What do you mean by nonpartisan?
Well, as Board of Ed members, we are elected in a nonpartisan election. Our politics are not disclosed on the ballots, and it's long been advocated to keep it that way. And that we do not let political interference affect the way that we govern or make personal promises. Barry can better articulate the bylaws that we, by all means, Barry, feel free to jump in and save me on that one.
What am I jumping on here, Jen? I'm here looking at me like I know what I'm talking about here.
You had actually shared it with me, the Code of Ethics, and there's a specific line in it that you had shared with me.
So I reached out, Emily had asked me something about this, so I reached out to Jonathan Pushman, who was our legislative and serves on the committee, and he came back with a couple areas, and it falls into the code saying that we don't surrender our partisan politicians, but we make promises thereafter. That's in the Code of Ethics. Making promises there. That's what the Code of Ethics says, and it would fall under that policy in the manual. So that's what I was sharing with everyone. So this is how the process worked. It was like, where would this resolution fall under the advocacy in the policy manual?
And also, I think that there's been a lot of outside movement to politically motivate and politically influence our boards of education. And I think as board members, which is really what when we eventually get to the policy, this is really more about the board members, because we have very little control over what non-board members do because they're not sworn into a code of ethics. So I think that as board members, we hold a higher standard that we should be living up to when it comes to how we are influenced in our campaigns and during times of election, and who is influencing us during that time.
Thank you for recognizing me. So I guess this nonpartisan governance is referencing, in part, a lot of things related to school ethics, the School Ethics Act, and the Code of Ethics. But I think it's important to note that as a board, we discuss policies, we discuss things that will lead to disagreement. We've had disagreements before, we've had policy discussions before, and there's been a lot of disagreement. And I think, like, saying that we have to be nonpartisan about this, my concern is that this forces us to find a way to just all speak in unison with each other. And, once the board has decided on something, we all decide, we all agree on that. My concern is that we're talking about policies. That's inherently political. We all have our own different belief systems. And I'm worried that, saying that we have to be nonpartisan, I agree that we should be limiting direct influence by people on the board, and I'll say that anyone that attempts to, give me a big check or anything like that, if they want something from me out of return, they're not going to be getting it just because he sent me a big check. I will state that, but my concern is that, we talk about nonpartisan, influence and political influence and intimidation and polarization. I think from our perspective, we should be allowed to disagree and agree on different policies, and I think that's a political process, and we need to respect that.
Can I just respond before? Okay, thank you. First, I love disagreeing with you all the time. We can do it all day, and I'm happy to. This is really not so much about disagreeing on policy. It's about the influence of outside politics on Board of Ed elections far more than it is about policy, especially outside of our own communities. And you'll see that more when you look into the policy, which is why I'm not bringing the policy forward, because I think this is definitely a deeper issue. But to your point, we can disagree all day. I'm fine with it. And I don't mind that the public gets passionate about topics and they bring it to us. But again, this is about outside political influence on Board of Education elections.
Can I just jump in with the, sorry. I'm sorry. Apologies.
If I want to clarify a little bit about what we're discussing right now. So we are trying to represent a collective opinion that we want to advance to the Delegate Assembly. I personally think that this is a great idea that we should bring it to the Delegate Assembly. So my intention is to support it. I feel like the further, more broader discussion there would likely be a beneficial thing. So that's why I'm planning on supporting it, so that it will go out of our board to Delegate Assembly to be discussed.
Sure. I just point out, I emailed everyone a document from NJSBA called Characteristics of Effective NJSBA Delegate Assembly Resolutions. That's not to say this doesn't meet it, but that's what I was looking at when I was checking it against. So everyone has that same thing if you're curious about it. It has stuff about the formatting and the purpose and just a little more background there. My one question is, and maybe other, is the resolution as it's worded is charging the Delegate Assembly and the NJSBA to come up with stuff to make that policy happen, or to make that principle take deeper root. The only thing I'm not sure about is, since we are asking the Delegate Assembly to add verbiage to their manual, do we need to be more specific? And that's the only question I have. I mean, I agree with what's generally there, but is it? I'm thinking that the subcommittee might come back and say this is a little too vague. Not sure about that. It's worth a try.
But won't they add?
But that's my.
Do they usually add their language and?
Yeah, I think there's a process they'll work through to make sure they
Okay.
will do what they can do
polish it
and
off.
think is proper to do. I'm not certain that we need to worry about that part yet. the part that we need to worry about tonight would be, as collective board, do we want to bring this to delegate assembly?
Got it. Thank you both.
Thank you.
So I guess, we talked a lot about outside political influence not influencing board decisions. I'll reiterate that it should not, if support is given by PAC or whatever outside political organization, it should not affect our decision making. I know it does not affect mine, but it also shouldn't affect anyone else's. But we follow ethics. Like we don't just see, oh, this person sent me a text. Whatever they want, I'm going to give it to them, right? I don't think we do that. We all follow the ethics, right? And as far as I know, no one's ever had issues concerning ethics related to outside, political influencing their decision making. And I think, going through this as well, like we talked about point 4 about recruitment and retention of board members. My advice to anyone that's considering running for Board of Eds in the future, and I know I've only been here for a little less than a year, but like we have to make difficult decisions. We're going to have to make difficult votes, and it's not going to be easy. It'll be in a very charged environment, right? And I don't think anyone who's uncomfortable with making difficult decisions, who's uncomfortable with being put on the spot about making decisions that will piss people off, should be on the board, honestly. And I think from a transparency and accountability perspective, ELEC is our best friend because we get to know how people are spending money and who they're fundraising from. And I know I've been transparent about this, and I hope that every other candidate will be as well, especially with our upcoming deadline. So I think from a transparency and accountability perspective, we do plenty of that from a campaigning perspective.
Point of order, because that's not really on topic with the resolution, but I understand what you're saying. I think that the reason why I'm putting this forward, though, is not because of just outside political influence on how you behave, but it's the outside political influence, like when it comes outside of our own community, is making the stakes so much higher and so much more difficult for grassroots effort of like just your regular everyday mom to just run. When you have outside PACs and outside influence, like it raises the cost of elections. It makes it almost, especially in a town as big as Bridgewater, it makes it almost impossible to compete. And honestly, this is like, the whole origin of this isn't actually coming from a politically motivated thing related to school boards. It actually comes from the larger picture of machine politics. And I think that we need to protect school boards from machine politics, which is why I put this forward.
Can we vote now?
One more.
I think we can vote.
All right.
Mr. Lee,
vote.
do you have something you want to add? Do you want to?
I just want to say, if there's a regular person out there that's thinking, I want to run, but they don't.
Can I raise a point of order? Let's
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
call the question.
Everyone's had their opportunity to view. Mr. Joshi.
Yep. One last thing.
Well, hold on, there's a call to question. Remind me, Kevin, when someone calls the question, we're taking the vote, yes? Or do we need to vote? Mr. Lomsky, please call the roll.
No, actually, no. It's a motion to call the question, then you vote on the motion to call the question. Am I correct?
Right, it's to vote on the call to question.
Yeah, exactly. So there needs to be a second to call the motion.
My mistake, sorry.
Is there a comment on it?
So right now, there's a motion to call the question. Is there a second of that motion?
Do people want to continue to
Hearing-
discuss it? Then
Hearing none, there
Okay.
is, that motion does not get a second.
All right.
Mr. Joshi.
So I appreciate this. This is good. I wish this happened last year. Having said that, I've been on various boards of eds for several years. All done through grassroots movement. I've come here and taken an oath from the BA. Never had anyone else give me an oath. Never had any contributions. Never had any fundraisers. Put up my own signs. Created my own cards that I distributed to people. So I like this, and again, maybe a year too late. I have been harassed. So I hope this goes further, and I'm gonna make sure it goes further. And I like it, and I like it that you sent it. It's very good that it came from you, and I'm going to vote yes for it.
One final word. For anyone that's considering running, you know, it is very difficult to run a campaign. It's very difficult when you're getting attacked. I know this firsthand because it happened to me. When you're campaigning and you're thinking about running and being a part of a board of education, you have to expect people to attack you. You've got to expect that you're going to be making some tough decisions. And guess what? That's a part of being on the Board of Ed. If you're not ready to do that, maybe running for Board of Ed is not the right thing for you.
I don't think that's the point. I actually,
Thank you, Emma.
I don't think that's the point. I think the point is that what Mrs. Lochran was stating is that the machine politics are what are coming into play, and the normal mom and dad who just wants to sit here and do what's best for every child in this school isn't going to win. They can't. They can't beat the machine. None of us can beat the machine. That's the problem. I think it's what Mrs. Lochran is putting this forth for that exact reason. That's why I support it.
Yes, Mr.
I
Pepe.
just want to say, I happen to think that, I mean, I'm from a smaller town, so there's a little bit more opportunity. Fewer seats, but more opportunity to get your voice out there. I don't have 20,000 doors or however many houses in Bridgewater there are to knock on, so it's a little bit different. But I do understand both points. I don't want to block anyone who is political or affiliates with a party or a wing of a party or is independent but has strong feelings one way or another, because our parents, our community has all kinds of different views. Your typical mom, your typical dad probably don't agree on most stuff, except that they do want good schools for their community. May disagree about how to get there, but I think that that's a reason to support this as an ideal. I don't think this is going to bind the board to anything. I'd love to see this issue discussed at the delegate assembly, I mean, their goal is to push it on to Trenton and just to have this discussed at the legislature. At the end of the day, they and, the governor are going to be the ones who going to make these decisions. So I think it's a conversation that's definitely worth having. At the same time, I agree with Mr. Lee. I agree with some other people who don't want to, you don't have to be Mr. Independent 100% of the time to have a seat at this table or a voice in the community or to run for any office. So that's just what I wanted to say. I think it's a good idea. I'm really interested to see where it goes. And yeah, thank you.
I'm just curious, can we vote? Because I have a resolution. I want to push forward. Yeah. We're good. We can vote.
Mr. Lee,
No.
Ms. Asuna,
Yes.
Mr. Joshi,
Yes.
Ms. Lochran,
Yes.
Dr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Pepe,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Calistri.
Yes.
Mr. Singer.
Yes, motion passes, and we have our first resolution to the delegate assembly on the way. Okay. Ms. Hassoun, you have your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I had a resolution that I sent out just before we started. So I'll just read it and take your feedback. Promoting wellness, resilience, and belonging in New Jersey schools. Whereas the academic success of students is closely tied to their physical health, mental wellness, and sense of belonging within the school community, and whereas New Jersey's public schools serve increasingly diverse populations of students and families who face challenges ranging from mental health stress, food insecurity, and digital equity to the long-term impact of public health disruptions, and whereas boards of education have a responsibility to create environments where every student is safe, supported, and prepared for lifelong learning. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the New Jersey School Board Association, I'm not sure if that should be them or us, so, urge the State Board of Education and legislature to, 1, support funding and resources for comprehensive school-based wellness initiatives, including nutrition education, healthy school meals, physical activity, and mental health programs. 2, encourage partnerships with community-based organizations to strengthen resilience programs for students and families. 3, promote policies that ensure all students feel a strong sense of belonging in their school regardless of race, culture, ability, or family circumstances. And 4, provide boards of education with model policies and toolkits to implement whole child approaches that integrate academics, wellness, and family engagement. The end. I suggested this because I looked through our policies, and we do have, we have a policy that talks about school nutrition and meals, but we don't have a comprehensive whole child proposal, or I'm sorry, a policy. So.
I second.
Thank you. Mrs. Suna, do you want to further speak on this, or cool? Any comments or questions?
Look, sorry. Thank you. Look, I certainly support everything that's here. I do worry, just having been to the delegate assembly a number of times, that this one, even more so than the previous resolution we looked at, is a little bit all over the map. And I think that one of the things they say that the guidance that they give school boards is to make sure the NJSBA make sure you understand what you are asking the NJSBA to do. And I think that this might be a little bit on the broad side for the delegate assembly to consider, because this would be, I think the ideas you're suggesting would probably fall under different portions of the policy manual. They'd probably have to spread it out. I would suggest maybe honing in on one or two of these, or maybe doing separate resolutions for each one to be a little bit more specific. What law are we trying to change? What regulation are we trying to change? I mean, I'm sure it would get 100% vote for things that they're trying. If you said who supports this, it would probably be very affirmative. But when it comes down to, like, okay, what changes do you want school boards to make, like individual school boards to make or be forced to make, I think people would stop and think a long time. It's like, okay, wait, this could mean a lot of different things. I'm not comfortable supporting it. So that's my only concern with this. It sounds great, but I'm not sure how actionable it would be at the delegate assembly.
I agree. Mr. Walker?
Yeah, I think it crosses about 6 different policies from the manual, because when you start talking nutrition, physical activity, health school meals, and mental health programs, that's going to cover at least 2 each, and I knew they do talk about that. So a little more, yeah, we need to, what do you want to accomplish with this?
I could probably hone it down to more of the inclusivity.
Okay.
Because they said we do already have something in regard to meals. I know we have a lot of the initiatives in here, but it was just the sense of belonging and the inclusivity.
Okay, well then.
I'm not sure exactly how you would do that. I think it's something we should strive for.
Would you be willing to move this to committee, say to community relations, and we can, maybe not on this deadline, but maybe on the next one we can work on it together on community relations? Because I think mental health is always a really good topic to.
And I think Barry's right. I think it touches upon several policies I think we have. So it might be refine it a little bit. Then I think it'll be good.
Dr. Lee?
So I think that if I say something about the delegate assembly, last meeting there was 3 resolutions. So I don't think that us bringing 4 is going to be too big a load for them. They have the committee to work with us. So, but at the same time, I hear our fellow board members saying probably if there's no urgency, we'll look at that within the committee and work it on it for the next delegate assembly, which is in May of next year. But I think I support the wellness of the children. I think it's a great resolution. It's a great initiative. We just have to figure out the details of how to bring it to DA.
And I'm not sure I've heard a nutrition resolution come up specifically in my time there, and it's such a big issue.
Yeah, I agree. So it's
encouraging something along those lines, I think would be great in the future for at least discussion.
Yeah, but it's well called out in the policy manual, the advocacy of nutrition. So if you look at the policy manual, the nutrition advocacy is well called out, and food insecurity. So those areas are pretty well addressed. So I'm just going to say that would be, I think you're redundant in some of those areas.
Which, to your point, explains why maybe it hasn't come up. So thank you.
Can I suggest, if you would like to withdraw the motion rather than have us vote on it at this time?
Or we can refer to the committee then.
Well,
The same.
but we
Right.
have a motion on the table.
Yeah, that motion can be.
But we
We have a motion on the table.
Right, but we can second, that secondary motion would be to move it to committee. It would be the same.
Okay.
So I move to send it to committee.
Okay.
And I second that.
All right. Kevin, is that a voice vote or is that a roll call?
We should do roll call
All
to be
right.
safe.
Let's do a roll call on that. Could you please call the vote?
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Asuna.
Yes.
Mr. Joshi.
Yes.
Ms. Lochran.
Yes.
Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Pepe.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Ms. Kalistri.
Yes.
Mr. Singer.
Yes, that will be moved to committee for the next agenda item on that. That would be moved to community relations, talked about it. What?
Is this about her resolution?
Yeah,
Is that something else?
it was about her resolution. Okay. So that's going to be moved to community relations to discuss? Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other new business?
Oh.
I know.
Yes. Yes. Oh, okay, it's on. I also had my own resolution, and this one is about artificial intelligence. That AI, not our other AI program. I don't know if let me read it out loud. So the subject is responsible use and regulation of artificial intelligence in New Jersey school districts. Whereas artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming education, business, and society, presenting both opportunities and challenges for New Jersey public schools. And whereas AI offers powerful tools that can support student learning, enhance teaching, streamline school district operations, and improve efficiency for employees. And whereas responsible integration of AI into education requires careful safeguards to ensure that academic integrity, student privacy, confidentiality of sensitive information, and ethical considerations are fully protected. And whereas it is essential that students be prepared for a future in which AI will be a critical component of the workforce and civic life through instruction that both explains the benefits and teaches the limitations of such technology. And whereas school districts must balance innovation with accountability by adopting policies that guide the responsible use of AI across both instructional and operational contexts. And whereas uniform and encouragement from the New Jersey School Boards Association can help ensure that districts approach AI in a thoughtful, transparent, and consistent manner. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the New Jersey School Boards Association encourages all member districts to adopt a local policy regulating the use of artificial intelligence in their schools and operations, with particular attention to academic integrity, privacy, confidentiality, and ethical safeguards. And be it further resolved that the New Jersey School Boards Association encourages districts to embrace AI as a tool for career and civic responsibility and fostering innovation in the classroom. Be it further resolved that the New Jersey School Boards Association encourages districts to explore and implement the use of AI in their operations, including administrative and business functions, in order to realize efficiencies, support employees in carrying out their work more effectively, and ensure that confidential matters remain secure and protected within internal systems. So I'd like to introduce that as a motion to introduce this delegate assembly resolution.
Second.
I can talk about it briefly. Thank you. As a proposer of this resolution, I'm obviously speaking in support of this resolution on the responsible use of AI in our schools. Obviously, AI is not just a topic for San Francisco, Silicon Valley tech companies and tech bros, but it's rapidly changing how our students are learning and will learn. It's going to impact how our teachers will teach and how our district is going to operate. And with this resolution, we recognize both the promise and also the responsibility that will come from implementing this critical technology within our school district. The purpose of the resolution is twofold. The first part of it is to ensure that academic integrity, student privacy, and confidentiality remain a priority for our districts that do use AI, but it's also to make sure that students are prepared for a future where AI will be central to their lives. And by encouraging districts to adopt thorough and thoughtful policies, we strike the right balance between innovation and accountability. And this is about embracing AI as a tool while also putting the necessary safeguards in place. And so I hope that we can come together and support this resolution so that New Jersey schools can lead with both vision and responsibility on advanced AI technology. Thank you.
So I just have two comments on this real quick. One, the NJSBA already has a position in policy that addresses AI. If you'd like me to read it to you, I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
I'm not familiar with
Okay,
the NJSBA
sure.
policy.
It's 6142.10, and it's a larger technology position in policy, but this one regarding educational technology says that the NJSBA believes that the use of artificial intelligence by students and staff, along with the integration of AI into curriculum, presents both unprecedented opportunities and profound challenges to New Jersey school districts, and that the school districts need to implement policies to establish guidelines for the use of AI in public schools. In support of this belief, NJSBA supports the establishment of a statewide artificial intelligence task force, which will provide guidance and policy recommendations to assist public schools in ensuring equitable access to AI technologies, promote responsible and ethical AI use, and foster innovation and digital literacy among students and educators. It's my understanding that this came before the Delegate Assembly in, I'm guessing, May of 2024. As a result of that, Governor Murphy did establish an artificial intelligence task force back in, well, actually, it was already done, October 2023, and they, this past November, put out a 111-page report addressing a lot of what's already in here. So I just wonder if, Lucy said before that if it's already been done by the Delegates Assembly, it's not likely to move forward. So I don't know if we're plowing any new ground in this. And I mean, I have the executive summary of the AI task force report, but it looks like it is something that the NJDOE is already looking at and considering. So that's all I wanted to say on that. Mr. Joshi.
Yeah, and I think we covered it at the Somerset County meeting that we had at the VOTEC. I believe it was last year, and they did go over this, so I think it is already on the book.
Yes, hey, isn't that our next with Mr. Beers?
And it's coming up, they're covering it, I think, next month too, or this month.
October 9th, if I'm not mistaken.
I know we talked about it, and it's coming up.
They've had it
County AI Summit on Thursday, October.
at the VOTEC, 6:45.
It's for.
Okay. Thank you. If I can make a comment, I feel like this seems to be a consensus that this board supports. And whether it's redundant, whether there's new stuff, whether there's new ground to plow, per Mr. Singer saying, I think the Delegate Assembly Committee can help us figure that out, right? So if that is the consensus that this board support, that we as a board should allow this resolution to move forward, and then the DA will work with us to figure out the questions that you have.
So was there a specific resolution related to artificial intelligence that was passed last year, or did they just create the sample policy?
That would have come from a specific delegate. It says, thank you. On these policies and positions, it cites the authority that it gets, and it says authority DA, and it's either November or May. And this one, it's the authority DA 524-7, so it's the 7th resolution from May of 2024.
So May 2024, they already passed a resolution that was basically similar to this, or was it different?
That's the impression that I have. But Dr. Lee, please go ahead.
Well, that's why I think that some of the background research we can do to work with the NJSBA, while this board has a consensus to support it. That's my impression at this point.
I don't know what you're asking for here. Are you advocating that the legislature pass laws on AI? Is that what you're asking here? Jeremy, what is the goal of this resolution? What's the end goal? Like I asked Rebecca, she wanted inclusivity, so she's looking for some type of, resolution or statute that says inclusivity is something we're going to focus on. Here's how we're going to do it. What are you looking for the school? Because you're saying policy, policy, policy. So I sometimes get concerned what are you looking for from the policy from that standpoint? What basically this goes to the legislative liaisons who go meet with the representatives, and the assemblymen, the Congress, the assemblymen, the delegates. The legislators, and the governor. What's the goal? What are you trying to focus on here? What's the end game? What are you looking for?
I guess the angle is to make sure that we are providing some sort of standard direction in terms of, how we are thinking about the usage of AI in our school districts. And this kind of outlines that fine line between too much, too little, irresponsible versus dangerous, and responsible usage of AI, with a focus obviously on the learning aspect for students, right? But also the administrative side, how can we speed up different processes? Maybe there's an invoice process or something like that that can be sped up using AI. But also making sure that, when we're using AI, we can use it to leverage our workflows without it also compromising things like confidentiality. Because as we know, just using ChatGPT, that information goes into, ChatGPT sort of public domain. So that's basically the purpose of the resolution.
So you're wanting more government push down mandates on the Board of Ed?
Incorrect.
Is that what you're asking for? What do you,
No.
I'm just asking what you're asking for. You're looking for government to tell us how to run AI. Is that, and I think those are actually very local type things. What? Only you. You would only tell the administration how to do it. And if we put a policy in place, I'm just asking what's our goal here? I understand what you're saying, but it's going to come down to it's going to come down to some bill on the Senate and House floor to say tell us how to use AI.
So I don't know if it's the House floor, but it might be
So the legislature,
the Assembly, and then the state
Senate.
Senate. I'm not asking for a mandate to be passed down from the state to any school districts.
But that's what a resolution does. It's an advocacy by the legislative department of the NJSBA to advocate for this change. The NJSBA has an AI policy and model AI policies. Strauss-Esme has model AI policies. You can ask AI to write an AI policy, which I've actually done. Yeah. Bob's did it right now. You can ask AI to write an AI policy. So my biggest thing is what we're asking them. They asked them to help with the task force. The task force came out with recommendations, and from that point, the legislators moving forward with it. And I kind of don't want them. I don't want the government to tell us. I don't know if they're going to know every issue how the school district's going to use AI. Basically you say, okay, use AI, have this and that too. We can do that locally in our own policy. That's my personal opinion. This is not going to lead to, I think, the benefits that you expect it is. It's a governmental. You're going to the bureaucracy.
So I think I'm going through this right now. There's information about privacy, confidentiality, ethical safeguards. I think we shouldn't be, obviously taking confidential materials and putting into AI and asking ChatGPT to summarize it using public, accounts and all that. And so the purpose of this is also really, really to highlight the fact that, honestly, there should be some regulation behind this. People shouldn't be allowed to take an HIB report or whatever and put it through public ChatGPT domains to get information or to have it be analyzed, right? And so I think from my perspective, I'd like to see an effort being made to sort of promote more responsible usage, but also implement safeguards. So I think, when it comes to something like, how we deal with confidential materials and putting that into an open AI, perhaps that's something that the legislature should actually address. So I don't want to call this a mandate, but I do want to call this something that I think we should be addressing across our school district in New Jersey.
But isn't this something that if we as a board agreed on the issue that we could address through our own policy, that it doesn't have to go to the delegate? Because I'm also very anti-state mandates on anything, which is why it would be very hard for me to come up with an issue that was that big for me to put forth. But we write our own policy. If we felt so strongly about that, we could review our own policy on AI and have a discussion and either come to an agreement or disagree. But is that what you're asking? Like, we're responsible for our own school district's policy.
Well,
It's
but
not
sometimes NJSBA suggests policy,
Right, right,
and Strauss
that's
may
true.
suggest policy, and
Okay, fair enough.
and I think that suggestion of policy would be appropriate here. What I look at is, Jeremy, in the document that you've provided, the be it resolves, right? And so in the first one, you're talking about regulating the use of AI in schools for academic integrity, privacy, confidentiality, and ethical safeguards. Having received this, I took a look at our student handbook at the high school, and it talks about, can I use tools like AI to help me learn, and what are the consequences for misusing AI? And mainly we're dealing with plagiarism issues, but I think that kind of, the protections that you're looking for are kind of in there. And then in the second one, you talk about be it resolved that we use AI as a tool for enhancing instruction and fostering innovation. I mean, I assume, and Dr. Jones, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that especially at the high school level, our computer science classes are talking about this regularly, if nothing else.
It's honestly not just computer science. Social studies and social studies and English department has been working actually together on this since last year, and they're continuing. It's part of their October 20th PD plan, actually.
So my point in raising all of this is that if we're doing it as a, look how well we're integrating it and we think everyone else should do the same, okay. I'm, to piggyback on what Mr. Walker said, like, what are we looking for? And because really it's looking for NJSBA to do something, right? And if we need NJSBA to then advocate at the state level that they should do this, and again, sure, we could be duplicative, but there's already a 111-page report. I don't know if there are things that are in here that are not in there. And as the state has already took a year for them to look at it, I feel like that's probably what they've done. But
Well,
Pepe.
like about what's new, I'm not sure. I forget offhand if that resolution that was previously taken up by the DA and passed and was looked at by the task force that the governor established covered the third resolve clause about using it in operations, administration, business functions. That's something that I'm not sure I would be comfortable supporting today, just because I don't know much about that period and how that would affect districts. But that is something I'd be interested in learning more about, maybe over the next months, to see, is that something that could work at a school? Is that something that could work in a public body? I mean, a business might be able to do that. What are the laws around that and the ethics around that for the for a governing body? I'd be interested in talking more about that and possibly addressing it in a resolution, because I suspect it might be somewhat new. But I'm not sure I could do that tonight, just because I worry about forcing that on, not forcing, but recommending districts to do it, where I'm not sure if it would be a good idea. It might be, but I'm not sure. But I think that would be the area maybe that could be new to focus on. Just my thoughts.
Can I respond?
Sure.
I'll say, obviously, that's a fair point, right? We don't know if this is something that can be seriously adopted, but I think in literally every aspect of life, we can find a way to make AI work better. I'm sure that there's a lot of things, Kevin, you wish AI could probably do that might be a little bit repetitive, right? There's a lot of repetitive tasks that I think Kevin and your team probably are involved in, right? The closings of the books. Maybe there's a role for AI to play there, and I think we should encourage that. Obviously, this is many years down the line.
Right.
But essentially, we're encouraging this to happen, because this can happen, and it can happen at every level, and that's why I support it. About the point about what the purpose of this is. The purpose of this is hopefully to spur more engagement with, finding and trying to create some sort of guidelines for protecting student safety with regards to using AI in our different AI systems. And obviously, there's a big risk of information leak, and I think this is something that's worth regulating, not just in our school district, but also in other school districts. I will say that. So this is kind of what the purpose of this is to help create these standard guidelines to ensure that every student, not just here in Bridgewater, but everywhere, gets to enjoy safety, and that we are able to build internal systems that can allow us to safely analyze and use AI for HIB, investigations. Now, to my point about, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. As it relates to this resolution in general, I mean, I think folks mentioned that there's a policy out there that we can implement. We have a Strauss Esme and an NJSBA
Well,
policy.
I think Strauss Esme is working on the policy right now.
It's not mandated.
No, they have a recommended policy.
Okay.
So what I'd also like to propose, and I know there's a motion on the floor and all, but perhaps we can also consider this being taken up into consideration by the academic committee, if that's something the academic committee would like to discuss.
So, just very quickly though, I want to go through the executive summary.
Okay.
Not word for word, for nobody wants that. But there are 4 different areas that they're looking at. One of them is security, safety, technology,
Was
and
this the
privacy.
executive summary of? I'm sorry to interrupt.
The 111-page task force.
Thank you.
Report.
That's what I thought.
The second was, and this is really to your point, Jeremy, I think of the second paragraph that you have here, workforce training, jobs of the future, and training public professionals. Then there's AI, equity, and literacy. And finally, making New Jersey a hub for AI innovation, which I've already seen the advertisements for. So I think that we need to consider this. And I mean, are you talking about moving this now to academic committee, as we did the wellness one, or are you talking about something else?
I guess the resolution in particular, I think it's fair in its current form to vote on. But I know this is off topic, but I talked about the policy, right? The Strauss Esme versus the NJSBA policy. So I was suggesting that this is something that maybe the academic committee can take into consideration, because I think it's important to have a policy like this in place.
Can I?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Jones.
Yeah, so just so you know, we're headed towards this, an academic committee. We're not there yet, and that's part of the work that we've been doing over the last year, because we don't want to go into discussion and adopt a policy that we're not confident really suits the needs of the district, which is why they've been working on it really in English and history. But even if you do a quick search of our curriculum, you can see that it's written into computer science, it's written into the technology cycle, it's in ESL, it's actually taught in the ceramics class. So we have computer science and design thinking standards that we have to integrate K-12. So AI is actually addressed in curriculum, and so yes, I agree that we should review a policy, and Strauss Esme has recommended one, but it's not. But when they recommended it, at that time, we weren't confident that we were ready to go with their policy. So we wanted to give it a little bit and see what we think. So we will do it, but it's not going to be at our October meeting, which is next Monday. So maybe after that.
So my thoughts are that when we try to do more internal discussion within our school district, I think that's definitely a worthwhile thing to do. There's needs arising in our classrooms. But at the same time, if we want to engage more broad resource and talents and get this talking amongst the school districts, at a place like the Delegate Assembly, we will be able to spur the conversation, that more people think about it. I think in this case, we can collectively come up easier with a best case solution, because people would have been able to see more scenarios, more places to see. Maybe we can learn some best practices from other districts as this discussion is going on. So I think for that benefit, to bring this topic as it is to Delegate Assembly will afford that benefit to us, to support this to advance further.
And I think on Rebecca, Ms. Asuna's proposal, I just think it's too broad of a topic, and I think that it's just not, that there's not a clear directive. And again, I would suggest that we refer it to committee, because they're obviously having future discussions on it. And that's just my thoughts on it.
And I think, like Karen said, the guidance is coming. Something is coming, so we can pick it up. But let's wait a little bit and see what we have something to work with first, and then we can compare and suit it to our needs. Maybe wait a little bit and pick it up at a later date. I mean, we can't do it Monday, so maybe our meeting is Monday, maybe in November or December. And by then, we'll have more information, more guidance, perhaps.
Well, because just, you want to include teachers in these conversations. So AJ, that's like part of it. So yes, we definitely should and can have the conversation in academic committee. But part of it is we don't want to do things in isolation always,
Right.
without including the educators who are the people who are implementing these policies in their classroom. So sometimes you're working almost, it almost feels like a backwards design. And we're seeing what works and what we think, and then we will bring it to committee and, you know, get additional feedback at that point. But that's where we are at this point with the district policy.
Could I just say, obviously it's been a little more over, it's been around 2 years or so, I think, a little more than that since ChatGPT and all this technology came out. And I think we should be trying to find a way to implement some sort of policy sooner rather than later, because yes, it's great that we're seeing this influencing our curriculum, but we also want to make sure that we are regulating the use of it amongst teachers, amongst administrators, supervisors, especially amongst students. And so I think it's super duper important that we have a policy like this, especially since it's the beginning of the school year. It's another year where students are going to try and use ChatGPT to write their essays. And so that means that when it comes to academic integrity, we want to be making sure that this is a priority, and this is something that's very, very important, I think, to making sure that we are having a
And that's
good
in our
system.
high school student handbook.
Right, and I agree, and I would love to focus on those policies. So it would be actually great if I could focus on the policies that I think will move things forward in our district.
And I agree too, and, oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you. So I think that I'm glad that there's a recognized urgency to move things in our district. I do not see why this cannot be also moving ahead with urgency at delegate assembly. I don't see a drawback of us not bringing it to the delegate assembly. And by doing that, we can engage the talent, the resource, and the our peer other school districts to join the conversation. I think these two can happen concurrently. And then the feedback can actually feed off of each other as we refine either the scope or the format of it exactly with the delegate assembly committee.
And I agree with the overall, and I agree with the overall sentiment, but I still think that this is an issue that, like, literally, Ms. Jones was just saying that she looks forward to exploring. And honestly, I think at this point, we've exhausted the conversation, unless, would you like to say something before? I'd like to make a motion to refer it to committee.
Wait, I was going to add some remarks. I had a question for Dr. Jones, but never mind.
And I don't know that we need to have commentary on that motion. There's a motion, there was a second, so I'm going to ask Mr. Lumpsky to call the roll, please.
This is on sending it to committee?
Which committee?
All right. I'll say yes.
He's got a...
Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee said yes.
Yes.
Ms. Asuna.
Yes.
Mr. Joshi.
Yes.
Ms. Lockwood.
Yes.
Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Pepe.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Ms. Calistri.
Yes.
Mr. Singer.
Yes. The motion passes, and this resolution will now be moved to the academic committee for discussion. It'll be put on their agenda? All right.
Wait, I have a small question. I know you mentioned before that, like, there were some things that you were concerned about, or not concerned about, maybe. I forgot your specific words, but sort of your hesitation behind adopting the Strauss Esme AI policy. Just, if you could give me a brief rundown of, like, what those concerns were.
I actually am completely unprepared to do that
Oh,
right
really?
now, but
All right.
what I can tell you is that I remember looking at it and having a discussion with Mr. Beers about that, because what happens sometimes is when something's introduced and then there's this rush, and it can happen in any area, to produce a policy, you look at it and you think, I'm not sure that this is actually going to work. And there are times where you let another district implement it first, same with changing schedules or busing, and you see what actually happens and whether something works or doesn't work. In the meantime, what we did was we actually, because honestly, the whole part about academic integrity and plagiarism, certainly not new. The tool, yes, it is, but that is not, I mean, I was an English teacher like 30 years ago, not new. So whether plagiarism was having your parents write your papers for you, or exchanging them with another student who saved them from the year before and submitted it. I mean, we've been doing this forever, and part of that is like when you're an English teacher, just so you know, and I would imagine this is true of history teachers too, you can hear somebody's voice in their writing. So especially when you've corrected things enough and you've gone through it, you know what somebody sounds like when they're writing. And so guess what? You also know what somebody sounds like when they're plagiarizing. So that's not new for us, and I would agree that some of these tools that people fight against, and sometimes that's my concern, I mean, that was with some technology, with phones, all different things, sometimes can be used in a way that actually is productive and helpful. So we want to make sure that we're looking at that too. So some of it is just, you know, getting more experience ourselves as educators with using the tool with students and then making decisions about what we think. But if you wanted me to go through the policy, I mean, I could do that. I just can't do that right now without being prepared to do that.
There's no urgency to it anyhow.
And I think that's a board request, not an individual request either, Karen. It would go through, there'd be a process through, yeah. You know, but I think it's a
Okay.
board request.
We're going to move on past this one. Dr. Lee.
All right, so I'm glad that tonight we're having good resolutions to consider put forward to delegate assembly. I think we haven't done that in a while, and it's a good night to do that. With that, if I may be allowed to introduce a resolution to be considered for delegate assembly, hopefully that's the last one for tonight. And maybe there's one I didn't know about yet. So our district has a, so I've sent a resolution draft to you earlier. If I would read a little introduction of it. Our district has a proud tradition of excellence overall and in STEM. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. I think we have a strong program and transition in a presence in robotics, which is a showcase of STEM in the technology engineering part. However, it's not all. It's great, but let us not forget about the basic science, which is the foundation for our students to further pursue STEM and many other fields of studies and directions in their future life. And if we can further, that we can further strengthen the overall setup of the curriculum right now, in my opinion, can, and hearing from some feedback from other educators and community members and parents, the introduction of rigorous teaching of basic science could be a little earlier and use a little more instruction time for ready and aspiring student bodies. And that part of curriculum being strengthened to really further enhance STEM education. This is not just for Bridgewater Raritan, but it's a shared consideration amongst many districts. That's why tonight I'm excited to share a resolution that taps into the incredible potential for students and families by boosting basic science education with the outlook of the upcoming updating of the New Jersey State Student Learning Standard, because we know that that review is coming up. So this can be an initiative that enhances science education in all of New Jersey that Bridgewater Raritan can lead. If I can read the resolution in its form, resolution to enhance basic science education in New Jersey schools. Whereas a strong foundation in basic science education is essential for fostering critical thinking, problem solving, and scientific literacy among students. And whereas early exposure to rigorous science concepts at lower grade levels can inspire curiosity and prepare students for advanced STEM studies. And whereas increasing instructional time for science education ensures students gain a deeper understanding of fundamental scientific principles. And whereas in light of upcoming review and update of the New Jersey State Student Learning Standard, emphasize the importance of robust science education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the NJSBA Delegate Assembly urges local school districts to enhance basic science education by reviewing and updating curriculum to introduce rigorous and age-appropriate basic science courses, considering starting at the early grades, and increasing instructional time dedicated to science education, and providing professional development for teachers to effectively deliver engaging and rigorous science instruction aligned with updated curriculum, and engaging partnerships with local STEM organizations to enrich science programs and provide real-world applications. Resolved that this resolution advances STEM education by reviewing and updating state education standard and promote STEM and basic science education across all districts. So with that, let's keep our district lead the way by supporting this resolution to the Delegate Assembly. It's about giving our kids the tools to share, to shine. I seek your support and invite you to pass this to be discussed at the Delegate Assembly. Thank you. Motion.
I'll second it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was going to second it, so.
Okay, great.
Mr. Lee beat me to it.
Don't the state have this standard for STEM requirements, Dr. Jones?
Yes.
They have standards, but they don't provide, with the exception of HPE in the primary schools, they don't provide like time parameters for instruction, but they do have standards, yes. And obviously, like our curriculum is, aligned with standards and updated to reflect that. I would also note, even though this isn't directly related to you talking about this at school boards or on the delegate assembly, that in our case here, we are rolling out new schedules, as you know, because we talked about this last December, I think it was, an academic committee, and then we read those minutes aloud at the board meeting in December. And so last December, we did state that the change in the schedules in K3 and 4-5 that will be implemented this coming September 2026. We will be actually increasing instructional time in science, kindergarten through 5th grade, also in social studies. But again, this was something that we introduced last December. And, schedules will roll out soon, and then by next September, it'll be implemented. But that's just our district, of course.
Yeah, I'm glad our district is doing it. I think that what we're doing aligns well with the drive to enhance them in a meaningful way by enhancing basic science teaching. So I feel like this is a good topic to bring to Delegate Assembly so that we can see at the curriculum standard point whether NJSBA can do some advocacy to enhance the STEM education. Not just in our district, but also in many that Bridgewater Raritan is leading the way.
I just did a quick Google search, and it looks like many schools have this. Rutherford, Morristown, Secaucus. There are a lot of Bergenfield. There's a lot of schools that do have this, so I'm not sure if this would be duplicative or not.
I'm sorry, have what specifically?
STEM-related programming and curriculum at various levels.
I think it's so different school to school. Like, smaller districts don't have quite as much, in resources and dedicated teachers. I think everyone has it to some level, but it does vary a lot. I know even with just science instruction, which is what I noticed the most, to Ms. Jones' point, it's great that we're increasing that. There are some schools where a kid in elementary school might not do a science or learn science for 3 or 4 weeks because there are a lot of times it switches with social studies. There are 150 social studies standards to learn from grades 3 to 5, and science does sometimes get sidelined, especially when, not that social studies isn't important on its own, but there's more overlap with language arts. That gets duplicative a little bit, so I agree with that. I'm not sure if we would need to be more specific, but I agree with the spirit of it, that increasing science, at least the regularity of science instruction, can't be anything but a good thing.
Yes.
So thank you for that, for adding that.
Okay.
I also can say that I was on academic when we presented those new schedules, and we are increasing science and social studies, which I was in full support of. I can also say, as being a teacher, we used to infuse science into the other subjects. So even if, like Mr. Pepe was saying, you didn't have science that day, it could have been infused into a language arts lesson because you read about science, something related to science. So it's not like you're never learning. It's not like science was totally skipped, is what I want to make sure is apparent.
So I have just 2 concerns about this. One is that within this, it says that next year NJSLS is doing a review and updating their science standards. So I'm not really it seems that if New Jersey's already doing that, I'm not sure what we're suggesting here, but I'm also just concerned about what is time being taken away from in order to increase the educational time for science education, especially at the K-5 level. Like, are we taking it away from PE or arts or recess or like what, you know? No, we're not just taking it away from anything. So like, that's fine. I just like, you know, there's a finite amount of time in the day, so I'm kind of concerned about, it's easy to say, let's increase that, and easy to say, let's increase other things that are not necessarily viewed as important as that. So that's my only concerns.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to piggyback off of your comments. I always like to ask, like, if we're asking the state to, whether it's mandate or suggest, or if it's coming from this higher level, I mean, who's paying for it? I guess if this, and I support what the ask is in theory, but like for what Mr. Pepe was saying, like smaller districts may not be able to afford to do this. Like, so where's that money coming from? And that's where I grow a little concerned about asking for legislation on something that I consider, like, science is very important, and I'm full support of science. But when they make these asks of districts, then the district has to say, well, where am I going to take the funding from?
Yeah.
Can I respond?
I'm
Or-
sorry.
Okay.
I know a lot of times science and STEM, even though they're very closely related, I think they're part of the acronym, but they are sort of treated as separate, not separate, but two different like classes. You might have a science class and then go to a special that focuses on STEM or enrichment or something along those lines. Just to clarify that.
So I think the point of this is that we're at a time juncture where the NJ state learning standard is due for review soon. The point is that NJSBA, as a relevant body, would actually be able to voice opinion in the emphasis of certain education areas. I feel like this is an area that will benefit the students at a large scale. And how is this implemented? I feel like there's a lot of other professional bodies that can chime in to solve that problem. But we here, as a board, if we, vote today would be to have this discussion at the delegate assembly so that more school districts can chime in like what we have and improve the education of basic science, particularly in the STEM part of the research, which is actually the slightly easier part to implement, but sometimes can be overlooked. And at certain times, I think even we might not have placed that course early enough in the student academic career, which will set them up later to not being able to take certain courses because they don't have the representative. So like a review on the sequence, the curriculum, and when to take that, the prerequisite, the courses that will go after that. I think that's it's due time to do that, and coming from school districts, coming from the school board association, would provide that valuable input to the state learning standard process.
Just, I think if we're looking for school board's delegate assembly to provide sequencing for science courses, we're looking in the wrong spot. That's not the school board association's job. No, it's not. So I mean, that's a local decision, and it's actually it's an administrative function to figure out how to sequence courses. And I'm just going off of what you said. So it seems like we're way over our skis on this, and I'm not sure what it is we're trying to do. But what does concern me as the leader of this district is that I want to make sure there's not a connotation that goes out there saying that we're not providing adequate science instruction, because that's not correct.
I don't think
All right.
anyone tonight said that.
All right, but I've sat quietly for well over an hour with these, and I'm just letting you know. The delegate assembly is not going to do anything related to this, because there are a couple of things coming on, and this is from someone who has been invited to some of these meetings and who has been part of curriculum revisions, et cetera, at the state level. you have a gubernatorial election in a month. All right, whoever wins, they're going to have their own people in the DOE, and they're going to issue guidance on how things are going to be for the next 4 years at least. All right, so we can go down and make any resolution we want, but it's not going to have it's not going to have any effect, because whether it's Jack Chitterelli or Mikey Sherrill, they're going to bring in their own DOE and they're going to do their thing. But I've got to say, I am concerned about the language because, like, I thought it was benign at first, but now we're talking about science course sequencing and things like that. So I think there's something else here that I just want to make sure that we're not going down saying at Bridgewater this instruction is lacking and we need people at the state level to assist us.
I'm just trying to advocate for good basic science education.
That's
Yes,
fine.
Bob, and our board actually did support us because they voted for a new
Yeah.
STEM curriculum in kindergarten just this past August for our 2 Title I schools where we have full-day kindergarten. We created a STEM course that you all approved in August, so.
Yeah, I just think this is one of those, and look, I know it's election season and everyone's looking for something to rally behind.
Excuse
But
me.
I don't know what the point of this is.
The point is,
I don't know what the point is.
the point is, we have a delegate assembly meeting coming up. We have an opportunity to advocate for good education at the state level. That is at a juncture that the state learning standard can have a chance to listen. And doesn't affect our district operation, because that's not the purpose of it. This is to invite a conversation at the delegate assembly across the school districts so that people have some thought about basic science education and enhance that. That's it.
Two questions. One, and you can answer afterwards, the NJSLS effort to change curriculum, what is the process behind that? Like, who's the push to make those changes? And two, in talking about what we're doing with our new kindergarten program, would it a more appropriate resolution be to say, this is what we are doing, we recommend everyone do this? Like, we're starting a STEM program in kindergarten, and this is how it's going to run, and we recommend everybody start a STEM program in kindergarten. And that way it's like a specific ask.
I'm not certain delegate assembly actually has that power to specifically ask any district to do anything. It's more like a platform where people can have a good conversation to decide whether they support idea, then they can take and run with it. If you think that our kindergarten science is a good program, we can write another resolution. But it is to invite all the school districts at the delegate assembly to consider improving, emphasizing their basic science education. Yeah, so that's the purpose of it. It's geared towards the curriculum development at the state level for the learning standard. So that's a specific ask. To your question, what's the process for the state learning standard, right? So from what I understand, talking to professional societies and people who make decisions, it sounds like to me, my understanding right now is that the state learning standard will actually take input from different professional bodies and update it accordingly. NJSBA would be one of those bodies. And this delegate assembly is a way that we as a school board and other school board who engage in this conversation at DA would be able to voice their opinions. I think it's a very important piece of feedback to contribute to that process. All right, thank you. That's all.
If there are no other comments, Mr. Lumsky, please call the roll.
Mr. Lee,
Is this on the resolution to introduce this resolution to the DA?
to the
All right.
delegate assembly.
Yes.
Ms. Asuna,
Abstain.
Mr. Joshi,
I'll say yes. I don't know where this is going, but sure,
Miss-
yes.
Ms. Lochran,
Why not? Yes.
Dr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
I'm going to abstain.
Ms. Calistri?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
No. Looks like the motion passes.
Correct.
So this will go forward. Is there any other, Dr. Lee?
I want to make a comment. I think that concludes the Delegate Assembly resolutions. I want to thank everyone for your input and participation and entry. I think this Delegate Assembly, Bridgewater Raritan, will be represented at that Delegate Assembly meeting. Thank you.
To be clear, Bridgewater Raritan is always represented at the Delegate Assembly.
We always send, so a lot of districts don't send anybody, so it's great we do.
To be clear. Any other new business? Mr. Suna, that's why I was looking at you.
I sent this a little bit earlier to board leadership, but I wanted to share it with everyone. In appreciation of the diverse makeup of our community and fully recognizing that as a public school, we are subject to policy with a required number of days of instruction, I would like to suggest that the Community Relations Committee debate the necessity of a, quote, community calendar that reflects important dates related to religion, community, etc. While these dates may not be reflected on our school calendar, we should attempt to avoid holding special events and large projects, testing, homework, if possible. It is unfair to expect every person in our district to be aware of such a list of dates. Therefore, having one central community calendar that can be referenced would be beneficial to everyone planning an event, including outside programs. This calendar would by no means assure any individual or group or organization that every date listed would be clear, as that would be impossible, but it could avoid conflicts that are otherwise unnecessary. And since community relations doesn't meet often, I'm trying to get my own committee back in business.
I mean, I'm happy to discuss it in our next meeting. It's definitely come up in previous discussion. I don't see any harm in talking about it. Did you have a specific time frame in mind for it, or?
I mean, I feel like the calendar for this year is done, but if we could look at the 26, 27 calendar and just start compiling dates with community input, then we have something that everyone could reference next year when planning things.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I know we do have a calendar available, but yeah, let's definitely just bring that to committee and kind of work out and iron out what it is that, yeah, do you want to, cool.
I just want to say also support this effort. I think, you know, having our district aligned to under having sort of like one calendar where we can say, all right, you know, maybe these are the days when Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur is, we can kind of look at that and say, all right, maybe we don't want to schedule testing during that sort of time period. So I think having that kind of unified schedule makes a lot of sense for not just the board, but also for administrators, for teachers, and everyone else. So I like the idea as well.
We don't need a motion to take that to committee because as committee chair, you're taking that on to the agenda.
Yeah, I don't see there's a sense of urgency, correct, to do it. Oh, right. So we're also going to discuss potentially the future delegates.
Right, the wellness one.
Yeah, that one.
Yes.
So, perfect.
Great. Is there any other new business? Mr. Pepe.
Just on the NJSBA Delegate Assembly, which we've discussed a lot, I would just suggest in the future that we try not to, if we are going to have resolutions in the future, that we try not to leave it to the meeting before the deadline. I think that'll help us get better resolutions, check them against what the NJSBA Delegate Assembly has done in the past, compare it to their checklist and their guidance for what makes an effective resolution, and allows for fuller board discussion. I think it's also possible that if we have a lot of these next time, maybe we schedule a special meeting for people who want to do that, so we don't have to tack on an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours at the end of a regular meeting. I think we would be able to do that, so I'm just tossing that out there. I also suggest everyone go to, or at least watch the Delegate Assembly, especially if you're considering resolutions in the future, because it might give you a better sense of what exactly they do. It's less of making us a statement like we believe this, we believe this. It's at that body, it's a little bit more specific, actionable things that you would like to see put into law and into effect. So I would suggest watching, tuning in, or showing up. Not showing up. That's being there.
You can show up, you just can't vote.
Yes, that's true. But thank you.
I agree with that statement. I think we have a good start or a good working for now, but we certainly can improve in the direction that you talked about. Thank you.
All right, so with that, I assume there's no other new business.
Motion to adjourn.
Nope,
Second.
nope.
Oh,
We need to
pardon
go
me,
into
sorry.
closed session.
I withdraw the motion.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Whereas discussion by the board is required on matters that are exceptions to the requirement that a public body hold its meetings in public, and whereas the topics for discussion are superintendent evaluation, whereas it is expected that the details of the discussion may be made public as soon as the issues may be acted upon publicly, be it resolved that the board enters into closed session at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We're going to take a 5-minute break. No action will be taken when we get back to open other than to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.